Chapter 267. Chu Xiang walked in the center of the house and didn't meet many people. Under the cover of the heaven and earth mirror, she easily avoided them. Zhou Xinlian was probably a little guilty of occupying the Chu family. She was afraid of being found out, so she dismissed the servants after the death of the Chu couple. She was praying for her uncle and aunt. Now the servants of the Chu family were all found by Zhou Xinlian. They were mainly to prevent the original owner from running out and plundering the house. At this time, Zhou Xinlian went out with Wei Lingxiao. The servants in the house also became lazy. They only guarded a few doors and didn't move much. It was convenient for Chu Xiang. Chu Xiang walked into her father's study. It was empty. There were only 4 walls. Even the tables and chairs were taken to the warehouse by Zhou Xinlian. She looked carefully and found nothing. Then she went to the bedroom of the original owner's parents. Like the study, everything that could be moved was gone. It was like locusts passing through. Only an empty house was left. It looked very desolate. Perhaps Zhou Xinlian was afraid of missing some treasures. After all, the ancestor of the Chu family was a Huashan cultivator. There were countless treasures left for the Chu family. Zhou Xinlian didn't have much knowledge. It was possible that she didn't know the top and best treasures. After plundering, no matter whether there were treasures or not, she couldn't miss out. She could also find the mechanism of the secret room. However, there were no secret rooms in these 2 rooms. Zhou Xinlian was very disappointed. In addition, she couldn't find a way to enter the forbidden area. Today, she took the original owner's last accessory, the jade gourd. The jade gourd was the Chu family's heirloom. But Zhou Xinlian didn't know. She only knew that it was a pendant that the original owner had been wearing since she was young. After today, there was no more things to take from the original owner. Otherwise, they wouldn't have watched the original owner being beaten like that. Chu Xiang was a little glad that Zhou Xinlian grew up with the original owner. She knew that the original owner didn't know anything about the family. She was interrogated twice and wasn't sent to the dungeon for torture. Otherwise, it would have taken her a lot of effort to escape. Chu Xiang looked at every corner of every room. There was no mechanism. Instead, she felt that the original owner's parents must have set a mechanism somewhere. There was nothing in the room. It was most likely to confuse outsiders and divert their attention to the outside of the courtyard. After all, Rao would normally check other important rooms, such as the ancestral hall, and not this place. So if there was no mechanism in this room, then the mechanism must be in the courtyard. Chu Xiang walked out of the door and glanced around the courtyard. She pressed her ribs and sat down. She took out a tortoise shell and 3 copper coins from her space. She couldn't use her spiritual energy, but she could read fortunes. With broken ribs, walking was equivalent to torture. If he could avoid walking, he would try his best to avoid walking. Although it was difficult to calculate things that were directly related to him, it was still possible to calculate the location. Chu Xiang closed her eyes and calmed her mind. She gently shook the tortoise shell and scattered the copper coins on the ground in front of her. After repeating this 3 times, she looked up at the rockery in the southeast of the courtyard. The rockery was very tall, about the height of a person. There was a pond beside it, and there were many beautiful koi fish in the pond. Now there was no water, and some weeds were growing. Chu Xiang put away the tortoise shell and slowly walked over. There were vines coiling around the rockery. It was very beautiful, and it was easy for people to mistake it for a landscape in the courtyard. Even the sunlight couldn't reach the rockery. Compared to the other beautiful landscapes in the courtyard, it was not at all eye-catching. Chu Xiang walked to the shadows behind the rockery and discovered that there was a hidden formation here. The formation was a chain formation, and there were several layers of camouflage. Normally, walking around the rockery would be fine. It was also fine to enter the formation according to the formation's specific steps. However, if one couldn't open the formation and tried to break it by force, they would trigger a killing formation. Moreover, it was a killing formation that wasn't very powerful. Even a nascent soul cultivator might not be able to withstand it. In the entire South Shore mainland, there was only one nascent soul cultivator in the Wei clan. This formation could be considered very powerful. Chu Xiang looked at it for a while. This formation was considered profound in the South Shore, but in her eyes it was just not bad. She quickly saw the way to enter the formation. 3 steps to the left, 2 steps to the front, 4 steps to the right, and so on. She slowly walked towards the rockery. There was clearly a rockery in front of her, but after she entered the formation, she walked directly into the rock. Then, her eyes suddenly opened up, and she saw a room as big as the patriarch's courtyard. It was like a treasure trove, with many rows of shelves arranged in different categories. There were books, medicinal pills, magic tools, and many boxes. Looking at the labels on the boxes, she saw that they were filled with spirit plants, yao cores, demonic beast meat, and other precious materials that needed to be properly preserved. The original owner had been to the Chu clan storehouse. The things here were a level higher than the treasures in the storehouse. Presumably, this was the Chu clan's real storehouse, and the things outside were just scraps. There was also a formation in this room. Chu Xiang spent a lot of time walking around before she could enter. She felt her body hurt even more. She directly walked to the area where the medicinal pills were stored, and looked through the bottles of medicinal pills. They were all good stuff. There was actually a bottle of spirit marrow in the very center. Chu Xiang picked up the blue porcelain bottle, opened it, and smelled it. It really was spirit marrow. Normally, there would be a spirit pool in a secret realm. The spirit pool was condensed spiritual energy. When a cultivator drank the spirit pool or soaked in it, they would be able to quickly absorb spiritual energy. The spirit marrow was the core of the spirit pool. It was the most condensed essence. It could be used to wash the marrow and reconstruct a person's body, making it easy for them to absorb spiritual energy. Cultivators use spiritual energy to cultivate. If their body could easily absorb spiritual energy, then their cultivation would be much faster. For cultivators below the nascent soul realm, spirit marrow was a very rare good thing. But for those above the nascent soul realm, they did not need it. Spirit marrow was rare. The Chu clan's spirit-severing ancestor only had a few drops in this bottle. Chu Xiang touched her broken ribs. Without any hesitation, she drank the few drops of spirit marrow in one gulp. The sharp pain came in the blink of an eye. Chu Xiang's forehead was covered in sweat. There was not a single part of her body that did not hurt. She frowned and clenched her teeth. She curled up on the floor and tightly clenched her fists. Soon, her clothes were completely soaked. Washing the marrow and reforging the bones meant that all the impurities in her body would be expelled from her body. Then, her meridians would be reorganized, her meridians would be widened, and her bones would be reconstructed inch by inch until they were even stronger. For mortals, this kind of pain was a torture worse than death. But for Chu Xianglai, this was an opportunity. It was better to deal with the pain quickly than to prolong the pain. Reforging the bones was much better than recovering from a broken bone. Therefore, she did not hesitate at all. Even if she was in pain, her heart did not waver. She just quietly waited for the bone washing to be completed. On the other hand, the heaven and earth mirror anxiously circled around her. It appeared next to her hand, as if it wanted to comfort her. After a long time, Chu Xiang gradually relaxed. Her breathing became smooth, and she slowly opened her eyes. Jing, or what are you worried about? It's not like you haven't suffered injuries more painful than this. She patted the heaven and earth mirror and stood up nimbly. She only felt that her whole body was comfortable, and her voice also carried a bit of a smile. It's all thanks to the Chu clan storing this thing. Otherwise, it would be inconvenient for me to walk. It's better to be comfortable like this. Chu Xiang tried to condense spiritual aura. The spiritual aura entered her body several times more than before, but in the end, it still dispersed without leaving behind a trace. Her mixed spiritual roots were actually 5 spiritual roots. Washing the marrow and reforging the bones made it easier for her to absorb spiritual aura. But it did not change her physique of not being able to retain spiritual aura. Therefore, no matter how much spiritual aura she condensed, it was useless. She couldn't cultivate, nor could she use magic arts. She couldn't even refine pills or refine tools. However, Chu Xiang looked at the room full of treasures and smiled. It didn't matter. She could spend money. After all, she had plenty of equipment. Now that her body was comfortable, Chu Xiang quickly looked through all the things in the room. Her focus was on those magic tools and magic treasures. These things were divided into different grades. The things that could be stored in this secret room were all high-grade and best-grade magic treasures. Chu Xiang looked around and saw two celestial-grade magic treasures. One was an exquisite jade hairpin that could hide a cultivator's appearance and cultivation level. Cultivators below the divinization stage couldn't see through it. The other was an emerald jade bracelet that contained an immortal's cave space. It could raise living creatures and store mountains and seas. These two were the only celestial-grade magic treasures in the secret room. Maybe because the ancestor of the divinization stage was a male cultivator, he couldn't use things like jade hairpins and jade bracelets. They were useless, so he gave them to his descendants. However, the descendants of the Chu family didn't have high cultivation levels for several generations. They were also one of the 4 major families on the continent. These two magic treasures were of little value to the Chu family, so they had always been shelved. Chu Xiang smiled when she saw them. These two magic treasures were suitable for her. She was about to run away. Without cultivation, she could move freely as long as she hid her appearance and voice when facing the most powerful family on the continent. She was even more satisfied with a space that could hold living creatures of the mountains and seas. She couldn't take anything from this world, but she originally had a space. As long as she fused this space magic treasure with her space, she would be able to take this space away. This was really a pleasant surprise. Chu Xiang immediately took the two magic treasures and refined them for her own use. She didn't have any cultivation level, but she had the Heaven and Earth Mirror. The Heaven and Earth Mirror was her natal magic treasure, so the magic treasures it refined naturally belonged to her. She only needed to provide her blood. Chu Xiang sat down cross-legged. She made a cut on her arm and closed her eyes. The Heaven and Earth Mirror appeared in front of her. The mirror emitted light that covered the jade hairpin and jade bracelet. The two magic treasures absorbed Chu Xiang's blood and were slowly refined by the Heaven and Earth Mirror. A quarter of an hour later, the jade hairpin flew to Chu Xiang's head and gently inserted into her hair. The jade bracelet automatically put on Chu Xiang's left wrist. With a thought from Chu Xiang, the jade bracelet disappeared. Then the Heaven and Earth Mirror floated in front of her. After another half an hour, the space contained in the jade bracelet had merged with Chu Xiang's space. Chu Xiang opened her eyes and smiled. She patted the Heaven and Earth Mirror. With a thought, she disappeared and entered the space. If she was hunted down in the future, she would have a place to hide. Chu Xiang walked around in the space. The space was really big, and everything could be used according to her thoughts. The things she put in the space were all neatly piled together. In this new space, they only occupied a room. There was a bamboo house built in the space, which looked very elegant. However, except for the complete furniture, there was nothing inside. Not far from the bamboo house, there was a medicinal field. This space was full of spiritual energy. It could be used to grow spiritual plants and raise demonic beasts. When Chu Xiang was a devil cultivator, the space was much better than this. However, after transmigrating for so long, she was able to refine a space that could raise living creatures. Even if it was her, she still felt happy. She went out of the space and waved her hand to move everything in the secret room into the space. This place was empty, but she couldn't let those two bastards take advantage of the other things. Chapter 268. Chu Xiang left the secret room and went directly to the Chu clan storehouse. There were 2 people guarding the storehouse, but the Wei clan was the caretaker of the Chu clan, so no one would be foolish enough to barge in and rob them. Chu Xiang was also a good-for-nothing, so they didn't care at all. Usually they only pretended to be serious in front of Zhou Xinlian. Chu Xiang had the Heaven and Earth Mirror scout the situation first. She found out that these 2 people were Wei Lingxiao's bodyguards and were in the late stage of the 7th layer of the aura refining realm. Wei Lingxiao was only 20 years old, but he was already at the peak of the foundation building realm. He was a genius, and he was also the young master of the number 1 clan in the South Shore continent. His bodyguards had followed him for a long time and were often flattered, so they were naturally somewhat arrogant. This also made things convenient for Chu Xiang. She took out an incense burner from her space, lit the incense that made people sleepy, and had the heaven and earth mirror deliver it to the two bodyguards. A moment later, the two bodyguards began to feel sleepy and naturally fell asleep. They even had beautiful dreams. This incense was something from the Chu clan's secret room. The quality of the medicine wasn't low, so its effect was naturally very strong. It was comparable to a powerful sleeping pill. Even if there was thunder now, it wouldn't wake them up. Chu Xiang put away the incense burner, put them in a more natural position, and sprinkled some wine on them. Even if other servants passed by, they would only think that they were drunk and asleep and wouldn't be vigilant. Chu Xiang used a magic weapon from her space to break the lock of the storehouse, then walked in openly. The storehouse was a bit messy. Zhou Xinlian had plundered all the valuables in the Chu clan. Aside from her own room, she had moved all the good things from the other rooms and courtyards into the storehouse. Because the servants had been hired at the last minute, and she wasn't willing to tidy up her things, she had temporarily piled them up in a mess. Chu Xiang guessed that Zhou Xinlian wanted to tidy up after the dowry was packed. If Zhou Xinlian found out that it was convenient for her to take things away, wouldn't she be so angry that she would vomit blood? Chu Xiang expressed her appreciation for Zhou Xinlian's childish behavior. Everything was here, and she didn't leave anything good for Zhou Xinlian. Chu Xiang looked around and waved her hand to empty the storeroom. She walked to the door and saw the two sleeping guards. Her eyes were dazed. These two lackeys had caused a lot of trouble for the original owner. Previously, she had taken all the good things from the secret room, but it was a pity to use them. Now that she had taken all the things from the storeroom, naturally she would use them all. Chu Xiang and the heaven and earth mirror were telepathically connected. With just a thought, the heaven and earth mirror immediately found two highly toxic pills for her. This pill was extremely poisonous, but it wouldn't kill the person. It would only cause the person's entire body to be in excruciating pain every midnight for 2 hours. With such pain every day, even if he didn't die, he would still be half dead. Detoxification was very troublesome. It would take at least a month to remove the poison. A month of pain was enough for them to suffer. It was a pity that Wei Lingxiao and Zhou Xinlian had already built their foundation. Only the best poison pills could do anything to them. Otherwise, she would let them have a taste of the poison pills. Chu Xiang found a remote place to eat in the space. She was now just an ordinary person with a very healthy body. After tossing and turning for half a day, she was tired and hungry. However, seeing that there were more and more things in the space, she was in a good mood and a smile appeared on her face. After resting for a while, she went to the forbidden area of the Chu family according to the memory of the original owner. This forbidden area was set up by the ancestor of the Huashan realm several generations ago. The defensive array of the Chu family was also set up by that ancestor. That was why the Chu family could be protected for so long. Chu Xiang guessed that Zhou Xinlian acted on her own this time. The original owner's parents certainly wouldn't talk about the Chu family with Zhou Xinlian. Zhou Xinlian didn't often go out and didn't have a broad vision, so she didn't think of the forbidden area as a powerful place. She might think that the Wei family was powerful. With the Yuanying realm cultivator, they naturally had a way to break the restriction and enter the forbidden area. If she married into the Wei family with all the treasures of the Chu family and the spirit vein of the forbidden area, her status would be stable. No one would look down on her. At that time, as long as Chu Xiang was killed, she would be the only cousin left in the Chu family. In order not to let outsiders gossip, the Wei family would treat her well. What's more, she had a good aptitude. The child she gave birth to in the future should also have a good aptitude. From then on, everything would be smooth. However, Chu Xiang smiled after seeing the forbidden area. The restriction of the forbidden area couldn't be broken by 10 Yuanying realm cultivators. Although the Yuanying realm and the Huashan realm were only one level apart, the higher the level of cultivation, the harder it was to advance. Some people couldn't even advance one level in their whole life, let alone advance one level. A Yuanying realm cultivator couldn't even take a blow from a Huashan realm cultivator. Naturally, they couldn't break the restriction carefully set up by a Huashan realm cultivator. This restriction was set up for outsiders. The blood of the Chu family could enter and leave freely with the jade gourd. Therefore, if Chu Xiang wanted to enter the forbidden area, She only needed to take the jade gourd back. Chu Xiang thought about it, and drew a map of the Chu family according to the memory of the original owner. Occasionally, when there was something she was not clear about, she went to take a look. It took her 2 hours to figure out the defensive formation of the Chu family. The restriction couldn't be broken by people without cultivation, but the formation was different. The defensive formation was already there, and it could be activated with enough spirit stones. Magic tools were divided into upper, middle, and lower grades. The best magic tool, and the celestial magic tool were all called magic weapons. Chu Xiang took out 4 upper-grade magic tools from the space. She calculated the position and placed them in the formation. The defensive formation would become a destructive formation, which would destroy the entire Chu family. Although it might not kill all the cultivators, the Chu family would definitely become a ruin. Zhou Xinlian wanted to marry Baoshan grandly in the Chu family, but she was afraid that she would never be able to do it in this life. Chu Xiang had traveled through many worlds, so she had understood the psychology of these scum very well. Sometimes they were seriously injured, but it was not as painful as this. In particular, Zhou Xinlian had already obtained the entire Chu family. How could she be willing to lose it? If she lost everything and became a loose cultivator in the early stage of foundation establishment, would the Wei family still accept her as the young madam? Although Chu Xiang had no cultivation now, as a 10,000-year-old devil cultivator, she did not necessarily need cultivation to torture them. After changing the formation, Chu Xiang confirmed the place to activate the formation again. Then she went to the original owner's boudoir, which was the place where Zhou Xinlian lived now. Zhou Xinlian had a guilty conscience. When she was not at home, she did not allow the maids to approach her room. Moreover, there were only 2 maids. Chu Xiang had the heaven and earth mirror as her eyes, so she entered the room smoothly. Then she entered the space near the dressing table. The space of the immortal level magic weapon was also merged with the space brought by Chu Xiang's soul. The cultivators in this world could not find her at all. The jade gourd was the key to the forbidden area. People without the blood of the Chu family could not use it. Zhou Xinlian did not know this secret. After so long, she would probably only find that it was a jade pendant of good quality. However, the jade gourd was snatched from the hands of the original owner, and the original owner had been wearing it since she was young. She would definitely not throw it away. She would definitely put it in a jewelry box and keep it as a trophy, as a memento. Chu Xiang was waiting here. Once she obtained the jade gourd, she would meet Gao Haikor again if fate permitted. Chu Xiang thought for a while, and found a top-grade image recording stone. Ordinary image recording stones could only play the image like a camera. However, the top-grade image recording stone could show the image on the whole continent, and let the sound in the image pass to everyone's ears. It was time for her to cancel the engagement. She had to let everyone know the scandal between Wei Lingxiao and Zhou Xinlian. Therefore, Chu Xiang let the heaven and earth mirror float in the room. Then she lay down on the soft bed in the space and fell asleep. She had to conserve her energy so that she would have the strength to do something later. Fortunately, she put a lot of good things in the space in modern times. Otherwise, she would not be able to sleep on such a comfortable bed. At this moment, the scumbag couple thought that she was seriously injured and dying. They must have been tortured and living a life worse than death. As a result, she ate and drank well. Her whole body was comfortable, and she had already fallen asleep. After another 2 hours, it was already dark. Zhou Xinlian came back, followed by Wei Lingxiao. As Chu Xiang thought, the 2 people did not avoid the servants and went into the room together. If Zhou Xinlian did not have a relationship with Wei Lingxiao, how could she compete with other women? She just happened to be raised in the Chu family, when the Wei family was very strict with Wei Lingxiao. She had a chance to get along with Wei Lingxiao. In the past, they had to hide it. Now that the Chu family was under Zhou Xinlian's control, the 2 could brazenly have an affair. The heaven and earth mirror woke Chu Xiang up. Chu Xiang yawned and saw the scene in the room through the heaven and earth mirror. The 2 people hugged each other by the window and expressed their feelings to each other. Then they became intimate. Chu Xiang blinked. She held her chin and watched a movie. The heaven and earth mirror recorded everything. The heaven and earth mirror could record everything. As long as there was a carrier, It could be displayed. In modern times, it could be stored in a computer and turned into a photo. Here, it could also be stored in a photographic stone. After a while, Wei Lingxiao was about to leave. Zhou Xinlian and him were very affectionate. She personally tied up his hair. Wei Lingxiao also drew her eyebrows for her. After busying himself in front of the dressing table for a while, he specially asked Zhou Xinlian to take out the hairpin she bought at the Eternal Pavilion today and put it on for her. When Zhou Xinlian took out several pieces of jewelry, she also put the jade gourd on the dressing table. When Chu Xiang saw the jade gourd, her heart calmed down. When the two of them walked out of the door, Chu Xiang immediately put away the jade gourd. She waved her hand and put away everything in the room, including the curtains. Only an empty room was left for Zhou Xinlian, just like when Zhou Xinlian ransacked the Chu family. She had the jade hairpin that could change her appearance and aura. When the two of them walked out, they didn't notice anything strange. The maidservants and guards also followed them out. Chu Xiang left through the back door and quickly ran to an abandoned courtyard in a remote part of the Chu family. The courtyard was overgrown with weeds, but it was the location to activate the Chu family's formation. Chu Xiang waved her hand and released a pile of spirit stones. The spirit stones quickly disappeared and were absorbed by the formation to activate it. The Chu family shook. Chu Xiang went straight to the forbidden area. Holding the jade gourd, she rushed in without any obstruction. Wei Lingxiao and Zhou Xinlian, who had just walked into the garden, were shocked. They thought that they were being attacked and immediately called for all the guards to help them. A guard ran over in a panic and reported, "Young master, the storeroom is empty. Wei San and Wei Si, who were guarding the storeroom, are unconscious." "What?" Zhou Xinlian's eyes widened. Her figure turned into a shooting star and rushed to the storeroom. Wei Lingxiao followed closely behind. When they saw the empty storeroom, their faces turned ugly. At this moment, Chu Xiang had already seen the spirit vein in the forbidden area that was filled with spiritual energy. Her family had a mine. What was a waste? Rich players could beat others wherever they went. Chapter 269. Chu Xiang's space was a piece of land of its own. She entered the space to check the feng shui and the location, then directly moved the entire spirit vein in the forbidden area into the space. The spiritual energy in the space immediately became several times denser than before, while the spiritual energy near the Chu family's forbidden area rapidly decreased. However, the Chu family had been destroyed at this time, so no one noticed the movement here. Chu Xiang took out the Supreme Grade Shadow Recording Stone and processed it. She added some scenes after the two of them fooling around. These were the scenes that she had the Heaven and Earth mirror take when she first transmigrated, and before she possessed her body, as well as the scenes when she activated the array formation. Then, she changed into the appearance of a servant with an ordinary appearance that people would forget after seeing it. She rushed out of the forbidden area and ran out of the Chu family's residence with the servants at the lowest level. After leaving the residence, she saw lights coming from all directions towards the Chu family. Those were cultivators flying swords. The people nearby also rushed over to see what was happening. Chu Xiang quickly blended into the crowd and ran further away, changing into the appearance of an ordinary person in an alley and running away again. At this time, Wei Lingxiao and Zhou Xinlian were still in disbelief, looking for the whereabouts of the lost item in the Chu family's residence. Wei Lingxiao slapped the two unconscious guards awake. Because the situation was urgent and he was too angry, he didn't hold back at all. The two directly vomited blood from the slap and naturally woke up. The two saw that their angry master was still puzzled. The guard next to them reminded them, and they were shocked to see that the storeroom was empty. The two hurriedly explained, but Wei Lingxiao didn't believe them at all. "You fell asleep without realizing it? You're all in the late stage of qi refinement. Who can make you faint without alarming you?" Zhou Xinlian's expression was abnormally ugly. "Did you get greedy and collude with outsiders?" "No. There was no one. Young master, we're loyal to you. We wouldn't dare to betray you or the Wei family." Wei San and Wei Si were frightened and hurriedly begged for mercy without waiting for Zhou Xinlian to finish. At this time, the ground was shaking more and more violently, and the house was beginning to collapse. Wei Lingxiao took a deep breath and pulled Zhou Xinlian's hand. Lianer, let's leave first. No matter who did it, the Wei family won't let them go. What could Zhou Xinlian do? Since the warehouse had already collapsed, she could only leave first no matter how unwilling she was. She hurriedly turned around and flew towards her room. My things are still in my room. I'll go with you. Wei Lingxiao flew after him. Both of them had already built their foundation, so even if the house collapsed, the ground cracked, and the trees fell, they wouldn't be harmed. However, when they quickly flew to Zhou Xinlian's boudoir, they found that there were only collapsed walls and pillars. There was nothing else, as if this was originally an empty house. Zhou Xinlian's pupils shrank. We were just here. How could this be? Wei Lingxiao also became serious. They had just left not long ago, and before they even reached the door, everything in the room was empty. Who was it that even they did not notice anything unusual? Moreover, they were here just now. Did someone see everything? At this moment, the extreme-grade photostone that Chu Xiang had put down was activated. Many cultivators and commoners had already gathered around the Chu family. They were guarding against the people attacking the Chu family, and watching the Chu family being destroyed bit by bit. Suddenly, a huge projection appeared in the air. It was the Wei family's eldest young master, Wei Lingxiao, having an affair with a woman. The projection's voice seemed to ring in everyone's ears. It was as if Wei Lingxiao was moaning in their ears and Zhou Xinlian was giggling and panting in their ears. Some young girls blushed and turned their backs. However, even if they covered their ears, the voice still rang in their ears. Since the Chu family was in trouble, the Wei family specially sent the housekeeper and guards over. When the housekeeper saw this scene, his expression changed and he immediately sent people to destroy the photostone. At this moment, Wei Lingxiao and Zhou Xinlian, who had found nothing in the mansion, also saw the projection. Zhou Xinlian's face turned pale, and she panicked. Wei Lingxiao's face was also gloomy. He furiously ordered the guards to find the photostone. He also pulled Zhou Xinlian into the air to search, but in the end, he found the Chu family's forbidden area. He confirmed that the photostone was in the forbidden area, but they couldn't enter. This was the first time he blamed Zhou Xinlian. How come you don't even know the way to enter the forbidden area? Zhou Xinlian looked at him in panic. I quickly asked the Wei family's ancestor to come and break this restriction. You can't let people see, can't. She couldn't speak clearly because in this short period of time, she and Wei Lingxiao had already rolled onto the bed in the projection. Although there was a veil separating them, this half-covered and half-exposed appearance made her look like a brothel prostitute. Moreover, her voice, which clearly appeared in her ears, made her too ashamed to see anyone again. Wei Lingxiao was also very irritable. He immediately crushed a jade tablet and sent a message to the nascent soul stage ancestor and his family. The nascent soul stage ancestor doted on him and came quickly. However, the restriction in the Chu family's forbidden area was quite overbearing. He couldn't do anything about it, and could only watch the scene in the air continue to progress. The steward had already brought people to drive everyone away, but there were also people from the other two great families who came to watch the show. Moreover, this scene could be seen and heard by the entire continent. Even the patriarchs of the great families and the emperor in the imperial palace could see it. Even if people didn't want to see it, they could hear it clearly. The two people in the projection were passionately rolling together. Some people recognized Zhou Xinlian, and those who didn't know her also knew Zhou Xinlian's identity from their words. Back then, the marriage between the Wei and Chu families had caused a sensation in the entire South Shore continent. If the strongest family on the continent obtained the Chu family's treasure mountain and spirit vein, they might be able to directly crush the other two families and dominate from then on. Therefore, the other two families didn't hesitate to obstruct them. It was only after Wei Lingxiao's grandfather swore a heart demon oath that the Chu family was assured to arrange the marriage with the Wei family. They never expected that less than a month after the death of the Chu couple, Wei Lingxiao would roll together with the Chu family's cousin. Wasn't he afraid that his parents-in-law would crawl out of the ground and settle accounts with him? There was also that Zhou Xinlian, who had lived in the Chu family for 10 years. If the Chu family had treated her badly, how could she have reached the foundation establishment stage at the age of 18? In the end, her uncle and aunt's bodies hadn't even turned cold when she snatched the fiancé of the Chu family's eldest daughter. What an ungrateful ingrate. When people talked about this, they thought of Chu Xiang, the well-known good-for-nothing of the South Shore continent. She had lost her parents, and was betrayed by both her fiancé and her cousin. Who knew how sad she must be now? Just as they were thinking about this, they heard a woman's indignant voice in their ears. My parents passed away. I thought that young Master Wei and my cousin would be the closest people to me from now on. But I never expected that they had been secretly colluding since a year ago. They really hid it from me. Everyone could tell that the person speaking was Chu Xiang. When they looked at the projection, they saw that it was still the scene of Wei Lingxiao and Zhou Xinlian being intimate. But the two voices had already disappeared, replaced by Chu Xiang's accusation. Wei Lingxiao's expression became even more unsightly. Zhou Xinlian's face was full of anxiety. Even the nascent soul stage ancestor's face was gloomy as he continuously used his cultivation technique to break the restriction. But none of them could stop the projection from continuing, nor could they stop Chu Xiang's accusation. After my parents were buried, I was imprisoned in the residence's servants' room. Zhou Xinlian took over the Chu family and my room. Together with the Wei family, they plundered all of the Chu family's treasures. They didn't even let go of my Taoist robes and hairpins. As if that wasn't enough, they took pleasure in beating and torturing me every day. I couldn't figure it out. If young Master Wei didn't like this marriage, he could have just cancelled it. If they loved each other, I would have helped them. Why did they have to do such a dirty thing? Ever since I was a child, I heard that young Master Wei was a rare talent in the world. My cousin Zhou Xinlian also had excellent qualifications. I always envied them and always thought that they were very powerful people. However, after my parents died, I realized that they were worse than the world's most vulgar, lowly, and filthy things. The projection finally changed. It was the scene of Chu Xiang being beaten and humiliated by a group of people. Chu Xiang's appearance could be said to be peerless. Because of her poor physique, she looked soft and weak, making people feel that they could break her just by touching her. However, those people in the projection didn't have the slightest bit of protective feelings for the fairer sex. They kicked and beat Chu Xiang without any scruples. The two protagonists who had fooled around with each other before stood not far from her. They looked at her coldly, and then snatched the last piece of jewelry on her body that could be seen. Such a scene, accompanied by Chu Xiang's cries of complaint, moved many people's hearts. They secretly thought that the Wei clan had gone too far. Chu Xiang's scolding was right. This Wei Lingxiao was usually an elegant young master. He relied on his talent to look down on many people. They didn't expect him to be so unbearable on the inside. He even despicably took the Chu clan's treasure mountain. After the scene of Chu Xiang being beaten, she activated the Chu clan's array with a look of despair, leaving behind her last words. My parents died for no reason. I hate that I can't cultivate and avenge them. My Chu clan's treasures have also been taken by these disgusting people. Since that's the case, I'll die with you. The projection in the air finally dissipated, and the voice in everyone's ears also disappeared. However, the Wei clan and Wei Lingxiao didn't relax at all. Chu Xiang's Wei clan had taken all the Chu clan's treasures, but in reality, they hadn't obtained anything. This news had already spread throughout the continent. What would others think of the Wei clan? How would they guard against or even target the Wei clan? Wei Lingxiao immediately went to find the place where Chu Xiang last appeared in the projection, but at this time, the Chu clan had already turned into ruins. There was no one there. He unwillingly sent all the guards to search. As for the others, there wasn't even a corpse. Many people were paying attention to this side. Seeing this, someone guessed that Chu clan's eldest sister is a good-for-nothing. She can't gather qi and naturally can't activate the array. Did she sacrifice herself to activate the array? I really didn't expect that in addition to the defensive array, the Chu clan also had a destructive array. Sister Chu is also a staunch person. She actually worked together with the Chu clan. Alas! Unfortunately, she didn't know that this array only raised the Chu clan to the ground. It couldn't hurt Foundation establishment cultivators at all. The two people she resented were safe and sound. Only she left. It's good that she left. At least she won't be beaten and humiliated anymore. Everyone felt sorry for Chu Xiang. Sister Chu used her death to expose Zhou Xinlian's collusion with the Wei clan to take over the Chu clan. She even pointed out the mystery of the Chu couple's death. Then this matter was most likely true. Some meddlesome people flew closer to take a look. There wasn't a single spiritual plant or magic tool in the ruins. It must be that the Wei clan had already emptied the Chu clan. Intolerable bullying, intolerable bullying. Chapter 270. Chu Xiang smiled as she listened to the people's heartfelt discussions near the city gates. Although she hadn't acted in a long time, her skills hadn't diminished at all. That blood-sobbing voice and resolute destruction truly made those who heard it cry and those who saw it cry. No one dared to steal the Chu clan's treasures under the Wei clan's nose, and no one could empty the Chu clan's treasures without being discovered by Wei Lingxiao. Thus Wei Lingxiao, who was in the residence at that time, was the best proof. The Chu clan had already been seized by the Wei clan. Even if the Wei clan jumped into the Yellow River, they wouldn't be able to clear their name. After all, the Wei clan's ancestor was the only nascent soul cultivator in the entire South Shore continent. From the city gates, Chu Xiang could see many people flying to the Chu clan on their swords. Even those who had arrived late from outside the imperial city lingered in the sky above the Chu clan. What else could they be here for? Naturally, it was for the Chu clan's treasures. Moreover, the forbidden area where the spirit vein was hidden had finally been revealed to everyone. Who wouldn't be tempted? The current Wei clan was the former Chu clan. No matter how large a clan was, there would still be people who dared to make a move. It was just a matter of whether the benefits were generous enough. The only question was whether the Wei clan would be able to withstand such a scheme. In order to prevent people from investigating unknown guests, Chu Xiang didn't stay at an inn. Instead, she found a secluded place and directly entered the space. Immortal-grade magic treasures had many benefits. For example, one could enter them to rest. They were the best tools for going out, hiding, and escaping. However, they weren't useful to the Chu clan members who didn't leave the imperial city. To Chu Xiang, however, they were of great use. A large pile of items in the space had already been sorted out by the Heaven and Earth Mirror. Everything in the space could be done with a thought. The Heaven and Earth Mirror directly built several rooms. In addition to the main room and study, there were also several storerooms for different types of treasures. Corresponding plaques were hung on the doors to facilitate Chu Xiang's search. Chu Xiang directly went to the study. She found a detailed geography and history book and slowly began to read. In this world, there were a total of 5 continents. Among them, the north, south, east, and west did not differ too much in strength. They were the Dongxing continent, the South Shore continent, the Western Desert continent, and the Northern Yong continent. The strength of the 4 continents was also ranked according to north, south, east, and west. For example, the South Coast continent was close to the sea, and had the 100 Beasts Forest, the Blue Sea region, and other places where demonic beasts roamed freely. There was only one nascent soul cultivator there, and more artifact refiners there. The East Victory continent was rich in resources. Perhaps in addition to demonic beasts and spirit plants, there were even more arcane realms. The Western Desert continent was next to the desert. There were arcane realms and ferocious beasts in the desert, but their resources were not as good as those of the East continent and the South Coast. Now there was probably not a single nascent soul cultivator. There were fewer golden elixir and foundation establishment cultivators, and more sword cultivators. The North Yong continent was rather special. The commoners of the continent had an abundance of resources, but not many resources for cultivation. Naturally, cultivators would advance slowly. As a result, Northern Yong mainly focused on imperial power, and had many body cultivators and Buddhist cultivators. The 4 continents were very far apart. In order to maintain the balance, the ancestors of each continent did not allow them to interact with each other. This practically prevented cultivators from going to the other continents. The Luo continent was the home of cultivators. There were demonic beasts, spirit plants, and countless arcane realms. There were also many powerful cultivation sections. Only those who had reached the foundation establishment stage in the 4 continents could be selected to go to the Luo continent. At the end of every year, the sects of the Luo continent would send people to the 4 continents to search for talents and foundation establishment cultivators with great potential. Of course, those who were selected could stay, but if they refused once, it would be difficult for them to get another invitation. Cultivators pursued greater power, and few who were selected would refuse. As a result, there were not many powerful cultivators in the 4 continents. The nascent soul cultivator from the Wei clan had only stayed because he had been promised by the Wei clan when he was in the foundation establishment stage that all resources would be given to him first, as long as he swore to protect the Wei clan forever. Some people pursued the great Tao, while others liked to be the strongest in a continent, enjoying glory and wealth, and not risking their lives to fight with others. As the only nascent soul cultivator in the South Shore continent, the Wei clan's ancestor had received enough respect over the years. He was very carefree. If he went to the Luo continent, he would not be able to live so comfortably even if he joined a large sect without a backer. Chu Xiang rubbed her chin. Only those who had reached the foundation establishment stage had the opportunity to go to the Luo continent. Didn't that mean she could not go? It was now February, and there were still 4 months before the Luo continent's selection. There was no hurry. She would think of a way when the selection came. Chu Xiang read history books until very late. The original owner could not cultivate, so she did not know much about the cultivation world. The Luo continent did not have a royal family. Although there were ordinary people, these people were under the jurisdiction of the sections. The other 4 continents had royal families and many ordinary people. The cultivators of the 4 continents were equivalent to the people of Jianghu. If the original owner was just an ordinary person, she should be able to live well in the South Shore continent. Unfortunately, the original owner was the eldest sister of the Chu clan, who was rich in treasures. She was doomed to be unable to live an ordinary life. The original owner understood these things thoroughly. It was already bright outside. She took advantage of the fact that no one was around to appear. She changed her voice and appearance to that of an ordinary medicine boy on the street. Carrying a bamboo basket, she walked confidently towards the city gate. The imperial city was already under martial law. Chu Xiang's portrait was pasted on the city gate. The number of guards at the gate had increased to 10, closely watching the passers-by. There were also a few Wei clan guards on the side. Chu Xiang's Wei clan had seized the Chu clan's treasures. Of course, the Wei clan could not admit it. When the Chu clan was destroyed, the Wei clan insisted that Chu Xiang had wronged them. They insisted that Chu Xiang was a vicious person. Because she could not cultivate, her mind was twisted. All these years, she had been jealous of Zhou Xinlian and Wei Lingxiao. It was indeed wrong for Wei Lingxiao and Zhou Xinlian to be in love with each other. It was also wrong for them to beat up Chu Xiang. However, all of this was because Chu Xiang had gone too far. She had even taken everything from the Chu clan to frame them. As for how a good-for-nothing like Chu Xiang had taken away the Chu clan's treasures and framed them, the Wei clan had colluded with an unknown person. They would never admit that they had taken anything from the Chu clan. As such, they naturally had to search the entire city to prove their innocence. In fact, the Wei clan also thought the same. Everyone knew that Chu Xiang was a good-for-nothing. The Chu clan's storehouse was empty, and even Zhou Xinlian's boudoir was empty. This person could take away the Chu clan's treasures without alerting Wei Lingxiao, who was at the peak of foundation establishment. Of course, it was not Chu Xiang who had done it. It could only be that Chu Xiang had colluded with an outsider to take revenge. With such a backer, Chu Xiang certainly had no reason to die. Anyway, Wei Lingxiao had not found Chu Xiang's body, so he was determined not to think that she was dead. It was as if as long as he thought that Chu Xiang was a scheming person who had framed Chu Xiang, he could wash away the scandal on him. The Wei clan was full of righteousness, which made the people of the other 2 clans and many individual cultivators mutter in their hearts. They didn't know if there was really a thief or if the Wei clan was too good at pretending. But no matter what, the Wei clan was the strongest. They still couldn't rashly confront them. Since the Wei clan was like this, everyone cooperated with the martial law in the city, hoping to find Chu Xiang and the thief. However, The hairpin that Chu Xiang used to change her appearance was an immortal-level magic weapon. Even if the Wei clan sent guards at the Foundation establishment stage to guard the city gate, they wouldn't be able to see it. In addition, Wei Lingxiao knew that Chu Xiang's ribs were broken and she was dying. Even if she took medicine, she couldn't recover so quickly. These people naturally stared at people with unnatural bodies. For example, the medicine boy that Chu Xiang was disguised as, they just looked at her and let her pass. There were many medicine boys who went out of the city every day to pick herbs in the Imperial City. Chu Xiang smoothly left the Imperial City. On the way, she changed her appearance again and bought a horse. She rode the horse all the way to High City, which was second only to the Imperial City in terms of prosperity. There were many seas in the South Coast continent, and High City was close to the sea. It was very rich and prosperous. However, the seaside environment was not as comfortable as the Imperial City, which was why the Imperial family and the 4 great clans chose to build the Imperial City here. All the resources were also gathered in the Imperial City. Now that Chu Xiang had caused enough trouble for the Wei clan, Chu Xiang planned to temporarily leave the Imperial City and go to High City to arm herself. She couldn't just sit around and eat until she ran out of money. She also couldn't do it alone. She wanted to gather a team. In any case, she could get a few more people to be her hired thugs. Otherwise, wouldn't she have to face that scumbag's guards herself? After stirring up a storm in the Imperial City, Chu Xiang happily ran to High City. Now that the Chu clan was in trouble and the Wei clan was in trouble, many people in the South Coast continent were rushing to the Imperial City to see if they could take advantage of the chaos to get a share of the profits. Many people in the Imperial City were also rushing out to find their young masters or elders. Thus, Chu Xiang didn't stand out at all in this group of people. She ate and slept well, and even had the leisure to enjoy the scenery along the way. It was very comfortable. Wei Lingxiao and Zhou Xinlian didn't have it so good. The Chu clan was destroyed, and Wei Lingxiao temporarily brought Zhou Xinlian back to the Wei clan. However, the Wei clan's patriarch and madam revealed murderous intent when they saw her. Zhou Xinlian, who was already at a loss, collapsed on the ground. She had grown up under the protection of the Chu couple and had never experienced any hardships. Now that everything she had carefully planned had been ruined, and her bedroom had been seen by others, she had suffered a great blow and was at a loss for what to do. Her first meeting with her future parents-in-law was so unbearable, which made her feel even more desperate. She couldn't marry into the Wei clan in a dignified manner. What would she do in the future? Wei Lingxiao's first awakening of love was with her, and his heart softened a bit. Seeing her like this, he stood in front of her and faced his parents. Father, mother, this matter was obviously deliberately framed by Chu Xiang. Lianer wasn't as scheming as her, so she fell into her trap. At this point, it's not the time to care about this. We have to find the thief as soon as possible to clear our Wei clan's name, and then retrieve the Chu clan's items. Patriarch Wei snorted coldly. Deliberately framed? Sister Chu was deeply in love with you. I've known that for a long time. A few decades in the mortal world have passed by quickly. Since you're engaged to her, you should treat her well. There will be no lack of benefits for you. Now, not only is our Wei clan carrying the stigma of occupying the Chu clan, but we're also suspected of murdering Patriarch Chu and his wife. How can we easily clear this stigma? Madame Wei glanced at Zhou Xinlian. The pressure of an early-stage golden core cultivator made Zhou Xinlian crawl on the ground, her forehead covered in cold sweat. Madame Wei asked coldly, "Then were you the one who killed Patriarch Chu and his wife?" Zhou Xinlian's face was pale. All the masters of the Wei clan in the hall were looking at her coldly, as if she was a lowly ant. She clenched her fists unwillingly, lowered her head, and gritted her teeth. "No. Uncle and aunt were kind to me. I treat them like my parents." Pfft. Wei Lingxiao's sister laughed, and turned her head away disdainfully. She treated them like her parents and even stole their daughter's fiancé. Although she didn't like a good-for-nothing as her sister-in-law, she disliked this woman who made the Wei clan lose face even more. Zhou Xinlian wanted to enter their Wei clan? Dream on. Chapter 271. Seeing that he couldn't get anything out of Zhou Xinlian, Master Wei waved his hand and asked someone to throw her out of the back door. Wei Lingxiao wanted to stop him, but Master Wei just said with a sullen face, "The whole continent knows about your scandal and suspects that my Wei family colluded with her to kill Master Chu. She can't stay in the Wei family." The nascent soul stage ancestor of the Wei family also showed displeasure. "Lingxiao, don't be willful. On the road to immortality, love is just a matter. Do you want to destroy everything for such a woman? Don't let the family down." Wei Lingxiao's heart trembled as he heard the ancestor's dissatisfaction. He was a talent of the Wei family, but if he couldn't bring benefits to the Wei family, what reason did the Wei family have to fully support his cultivation? His cousin had dual earth and wood spiritual roots. Now that he was 15 years old and had reached the late stage of qi refining, it was not impossible for him to replace him. He wanted the best resources for cultivation. If he wanted to go to the Luo continent, he couldn't let the family down. Wei Lingxiao finally lowered his stubborn head and admitted his mistake. However, this talent of the Wei family had lost a lot of color in the hearts of the Wei family members. The reputation of the entire Wei family was ruined, and all the clansmen were dissatisfied. However, due to the cultivation of the master and Wei Lingxiao, they couldn't criticize too much. Even so, the clansmen secretly gave a lot of benefits to the master and expressed their full support for Wei Lingxiao. Where there were benefits, there would be conflicts. The family cultivated talented cultivators with all their strength, and the rest of the weaker ones were naturally unwilling. They also wanted to have the opportunity to go to the Luo continent. However, although it seemed easy to reach foundation establishment from qi refining, many people couldn't cross the threshold of foundation establishment in their lifetime. They had to have some opportunities or top-grade foundation establishment pills to be sure. Now that there was such a good opportunity and the master was in the wrong, they naturally had to take advantage of it and get more benefits for themselves. Even Wei Lingxiao's sister acted coquettishly and asked the master for a top-grade magic weapon. This was the first time Wei Lingxiao experienced the feeling of being disrespected. He brought disaster to the family and couldn't be arrogant in front of the clansmen. It was as if he suddenly fell from the clouds and returned to reality from a dream. He felt very uncomfortable, so he simply closed the door and refused to see anyone. He didn't forget to send people to settle Zhou Xinlian. He also had property in the imperial city. Zhou Xinlian quickly lived in a courtyard with maids to serve her. However, she already owned the entire Chu clan, so how could she possibly be interested in a house like this? She felt as if her heart was being cut by a knife when she thought about how all her possessions were the things in her storage bracelet. If she had known, she wouldn't have put everything in the storage room. Now she had nothing left. The two of them hid at home and found peace, but they didn't know that the rumors outside were getting worse and worse. The Wei clan's innocent and fearless appearance had indeed attracted many people's attention. However, after a few days, the cultivators still couldn't find any trace of Chu Xiang, even after digging 3 feet into the ground. They also couldn't find any traces of the thief. The only thing that could be considered as evidence was that the 2 guards guarding the warehouse were in so much pain that they wished they were dead every night. It was said that they had been knocked unconscious by the thieves and fed with poison pills. Although this was considered evidence to the Wei clan, to outsiders like them, wasn't this just the Wei clan side of the story? Everyone's dissatisfaction grew with each passing day. Chu Xiang was a good-for-nothing, and her body was even weaker than an ordinary woman's. How could she have avoided so many cultivators and escaped? Was there really someone so powerful who could protect Chu Xiang and escape without alerting anyone? Could this person really be a nobody in the South Shore continent? After all, the Wei clan's ancestor had the highest cultivation base in the South Shore continent. If even the Wei clan's ancestor couldn't do anything about it, it was enough to prove that there was no such thief. Everyone was certain that Chu Xiang had died when the formation was activated, and that the Wei clan had stolen all of the Chu clan's treasures. Wealth moved people's hearts. The rogue cultivators gathered together, led by the other 2 clans, the Li and Lu clans, to suppress the Wei clan and seek justice for the Chu clan. The momentum was so great that even the Wei clan, the #1 clan on the South Shore, couldn't withstand it. The Wei clan had no choice but to give up the spirit vein, saying that they had never taken anything from the Chu clan. In the past, they had sent guards to the Chu clan to take care of Chu Xiang. Now that Chu Xiang and the Chu clan were no longer around, the Wei clan would naturally not interfere in the Chu clan's matters. In other words, the Chu clan's forbidden area was right there, and it wasn't inferior to the Wei clan's. Anyone who had the ability to enter could enter. To the cultivators, this was a joyous occasion. However, they had all tried to enter the forbidden area, and were naturally dissatisfied. Someone suggested that the Wei clan lord swear a heart demon oath to prove that he hadn't touched the Chu clan's treasures. However, the two clans had been engaged for a long time, and had been in frequent contact over the past 2 years. The Wei clan had also received some benefits from the Chu clan, so how could they dare swear a heart demon oath? In everyone's eyes, the Wei clan had a guilty conscience. Some of the cultivators also suspected that the Wei clan really hadn't done it. However, such suspicions weren't worth mentioning in the face of benefits. The Wei clan still had to be punished. The Wei clan could hire a nascent soul ancestor to intimidate the cultivators, but they couldn't let the Wei clan and all of the cultivators on the South Shore bear the consequences. The Wei clan searched the imperial city and the surrounding towns, but still couldn't find any trace of Chu Xiang or the thief. In the face of the aggressive cultivators, the Wei clan was forced into a corner, and could only suffer in silence. They took out a lot of things from the storehouse and distributed them to the cultivators, saying that they had put in a lot of effort for the Wei clan. This was the Wei clan's way of thanking them. When the cultivators saw that they couldn't take anything, they stopped while they were ahead. In any case, the Wei clan had dug out the spirit vein, which was much better than the treasures they couldn't see. The Chu clan was getting worse with each generation. Who knew how many treasures they had left? They might only have some useless things left. The spirit vein was still more important. Although none of them could enter the spirit vein, the Luanli clans and a few individual cultivators knew people in the Luo continent. The next time someone from the Luo continent came, they could send a message or ask someone from the Luo continent to take a look. Who knew? Maybe they could break the restriction. After receiving the benefits, the cultivators finally dispersed. However, the Wei clan's tarnished reputation couldn't be restored. The Wei clan's eldest young master was also seen as an erotic scene. His name was tainted with peach blossoms. There were even female cultivators who boasted of their beauty who recommended themselves to him. After being rejected, they thought he was pretending to be virtuous and virtuous. They annoyed him so much that he didn't go out easily. Zhou Xinlian was even more embarrassed. She could only cultivate in the courtyard by relying on the things Wei Lingxiao had given her. Her life was even worse than that of an individual cultivator. She regretted it. She thought she was living under someone else's roof in the Chu clan, but now she was a mistress who couldn't see the light of day. She was unwilling to let Chu Xiang be the first wife and become the second wife. However, now she was a mistress who was despised by everyone. Zhou Xinlian felt that the future was bleak. She cried every day, but now crying couldn't get her lover's comfort. She could only keep a low profile, endure the pain and plan again. Wei Lingxiao regretted it even more than her. She was just a woman, and a woman who could only live for a few decades. Why did she have to make such a fuss? Her reputation was ruined, and she didn't get anything from the Chu clan. He had seen the Chu clan's warehouse, but he didn't see the top-grade photostone at all. Chu Xiang's top-grade photostone was taken from somewhere else. There must be a secret room in the Chu clan that they didn't find. For Chu Xiang to be able to record those images without them noticing, it was either that someone with a profound cultivation base was secretly helping her, or that Chu Xiang had some sort of top-grade or higher magic treasure. Moreover, Chu Xiang put the photostone in the forbidden area. Obviously, Chu Xiang knew how to get to the forbidden area. There was an entire spirit vein in there, and it disappeared with Chu Xiang just like that. They couldn't get it. All of this was like a huge slap to his face, knocking away all of his pride and arrogance. He had watched people beat up Chu Xiang during the day and felt disdain for Chu Xiang. That night, Chu Xiang gave him a heavy blow, and when he hit Chu Xiang had already recorded an image. At that time, was Chu Xiang mocking him in her heart? Did she think he was a clown? He just didn't want to marry a trash that he despised from the bottom of his heart. Everything he had planned for the Chu clan for so long had come to nothing. Every time he thought about it, he felt unreconciled. It was as if the treasure in his hands had burst like a bubble, leaving nothing behind. Chu Xiang clearly liked him, and her appearance was also stunning. If he married Chu Xiang, he would just have one more woman. He wouldn't lose out at all, so why did he have to humiliate Chu Xiang? Now many people laughed at him for being blind, picking sesame seeds and throwing away watermelons. This kind of depression, other than him, no one could understand. Even his cultivation progress had slowed down a lot. Chu Xiang only heard about these things after she settled down in Sea City. Sea City was very far from the Imperial City, and things in the Imperial City weren't so secretive. In the restaurants and tea houses, she could hear people laughing about it, and Chu Xiang was quite happy to hear it. She was now a beautiful young girl, and her voice wasn't as pleasant as before. She was very ordinary, and her height and figure were also ordinary. If she was put in a crowd, she would fade into the crowd. She had already been in Sea City for a few days, and she had also figured out the situation in Sea City. The mountains here were high, and the emperor was far away. The city lord was somewhat like a local emperor, and the people were very rich. The city lord had the highest cultivation in Sea City, and he also had the most refiners. Because it was close to the Blue Sea region, all kinds of materials were easier to obtain. Even if their own cultivation wasn't enough, many people who entered the Blue Sea region were willing to sell the materials they obtained. Therefore, there were many shops selling magic tools in Sea City, and the people were most equipped with all kinds of magic tools. The city lord's mansion also supported a refiner in the gold core stage. Of course, just having materials was not enough for refining tools. What to put first and what to put later, the control of the fire, and many other things to pay attention to were not easy to learn. Without ancient books and guidance from masters, it was very difficult for these refiners to refine high-grade magic tools. Only the gold core refiners in the city lord's mansion had refined a few. A month later, it would be the refiners' competition. This was an annual event in Sea City. Not only could they learn from each other, but they could also compete to see who was better. After that, depending on their strength, the magic tools they sold would be sold at different prices. Therefore, when refiners needed a large amount of materials, many rogue cultivators who relied on selling materials for a living entered the Blue Sea region to hunt demonic beasts and collect spiritual plants. Of course, there were also family members who went in to gain experience, and there were also people who were entrusted to form teams to complete tasks. In short, the Blue Sea region was very lively now. After listening to the Fun of the Wei family and Zhou Xinlian, Chu Xiang decided to go to the Blue Sea region to play. She hadn't been to such a fun place in the cultivation world for a long time. At that time, she would be able to meet many young cultivators, and presumably, she would also see many interesting things. Maybe the team she wanted to form could be formed here? Chu Xiang was fully armed, and just like that, she became the first ordinary person to enter the Blue Sea region. Of course, she was an ordinary person with high-level equipment. Chapter 272. There was an island in the center of the Blue Sea region. The island was covered in lush vegetation, and there were many amphibious demonic beasts on the island. The island was surrounded by water from shallow to deep. Cultivators with good swimming skills could directly enter the sea to catch demonic beasts or pick spiritual plants. Of course, there were also dangers. Not every cultivator who entered the Blue Sea region could come back alive. The weak were prey to the strong. Cultivators not only had to face demonic beasts, there were also humans with bad intentions. Most of the cultivators who entered the Blue Sea region to gain experience were Qi condensation cultivators, and some Foundation establishment cultivators. There were very few Foundation establishment cultivators. When Qi condensation cultivators met Foundation establishment cultivators, they would respectfully give way to them to avoid attracting trouble. However, Qi condensation and Foundation establishment cultivators were able to see each other's cultivation level. Chu Xiang was an exception. No one could see through her cultivation level. Several boats docked at the island in the Blue Sea region. Chu Xiang and the others got off the boat together. Many people noticed her. She was a young woman wearing a high-grade magic robe. Her expression did not reveal any fear. Moreover, she was alone. No matter how people looked at her, they were curious. Especially since no one could see through her cultivation level. This added a bit of mystery to her. Everyone guessed that Chu Xiang was definitely a foundation establishment cultivator. It was very possible that she was a big sister from a big family who came out to play. They could not rashly provoke her. Of course, there were those who did not dare to provoke, but there were also those who wanted to make friends with her. This time, there were more than 100 people who got off the boat. Everyone walked towards the island together, and then separated. Chu Xiang leisurely walked a few steps, as if she was looking at the scenery. A young master brought a woman and 4 bodyguards over. The young master's peach blossom eyes looked at Chu Xiang. It was as if he had feelings for her. "Miss, I am Zhou Yufeng. Miss doesn't look like a local. Is this your first time in Sea City?" Chu Xiang looked at the woman beside him. That woman's eyes were filled with jealousy. Clearly, this was a dissolute young master who brought his lover out. She shook her head and refused. "No, I like to walk by myself." She wanted to walk around him. Who would have thought that the young man would block her again? "Miss, I am the nephew of Sea City's city lord. This Blue Sea region is quite dangerous. Why don't you come with me and let me do my duty as a host and introduce you?" Chu Xiang frowned and looked him up and down. "Nephew? What? Could the nephew of Sea City's city lord have anyone he wanted as his companion? Is this the rule of Sea City?" At this moment, a lone young master walked over from afar and said unhappily, "Zhou Yufeng, you're using my father's name to run amok outside. Do you want to be locked up again?" Zhou Yufeng's expression changed when she saw him. She smiled mischievously and said, "Yo Yunfei, why are you here? His body has recovered? A few days ago, I heard that you were sick and couldn't get out of bed. I thought that I wouldn't be able to see you for a while. I didn't expect to see you here. But Yunfei, this isn't a place for children to play. You're too willful to come here alone. Hurry up and go back. Don't make us worry about you." Zhou Yufeng sighed. His expression hid a sense of superiority, but there wasn't the slightest bit of worry. Yunfei snorted coldly. "You don't need to worry. I advise you to leave quickly. Don't use my father's name to pester others." "How is that pestering? I'm just asking out of kindness. Since this big sister doesn't appreciate it, I'll take my leave first." Zhou Yufeng was still cheerful. He glanced at Chu Xiang's Taoist robe and reluctantly left with his men. Yunfei covered his mouth and coughed twice. He said to Chu Xiang apologetically, "Miss, I'm He Yunfei. My father is Sea City's city lord. My father governs Sea City with integrity and integrity. He will never do things that are difficult for others. Just now, that person used my father's name to do some improper things. Miss, please don't mind him." Chu Xiang nodded. She looked at his pale face and said with a smile, "Thank you for helping me out, young master. You don't look too good. I happen to have some medical skills. Would young master like to travel with me?" He Yunfei was startled. He didn't expect that Chu Xiang, who was disdainful of Zhou Yufeng, would be so polite to him. He could see that Chu Xiang's clothes and hairpins were high quality. She must be a big sister of some family. It wouldn't be good if she ran out to play in their Sea City. He nodded and said, "It's naturally good to travel with Mississippi. I've been to the Blue Sea region a few times, so I'm quite familiar with it. If Miss wants anything, I can take Miss to find it." They walked together, and the surrounding people who were watching the show dispersed. No matter how curious they were about Chu Xiang's identity and cultivation, seeing that Chu Xiang was traveling with the city lord's son, they didn't want to disturb her. As they walked, the two of them separated from the crowd. There was indeed a lot of vegetation on the island, but most of it didn't have any medicinal value. Chu Xiang wasn't in a hurry. She walked in the forest like she was taking a stroll, which was very suitable for a young lady to have fun. She curiously asked He Yunfei, "Was that Zhou Yufeng also this arrogant in the city? Did he grow up in the city lord's manor? I think he's even more arrogant than you." He Yunfei lowered his eyes and said, "No, his parents are alive and he lives in their manor. It's just that in this generation of my family, there are no males other than me." He can barely be considered my elder brother, so he's very favored. Chu Xiang understood. The position of Sea City's city lord would be passed on to his son, but He Yunfei was a sickly person, so it was hard to say when he would pass away. Then wouldn't Zhou Yufeng, the only descendant, be the best candidate to succeed him? No wonder Zhou Yufeng had a sense of superiority in front of He Yunfei, and was so high profile outside. As long as he didn't cause any trouble, the city lord wouldn't have time to care about him. Chu Xiang recalled what the original owner had heard when she was young. She pretended to casually say, "Are there many people with the surname Zhou in Sea City? I've heard people talk about it these days." The famous Zhou Xinlian of the imperial city was born in Sea City. Why do I feel that Zhou Yufeng looks a bit like Zhou Xinlian? He Yunfei's expression was a bit unnatural, and his ears turned red. At that time, everyone had seen the projection, and heard the voice clearly. Now that it was mentioned, it reminded him of the scene at that time. He and Chu Xiang were a single man and a single woman, so he felt that this matter wasn't appropriate. But he still answered Chu Xiang's question. Zhou Xinlian's father and Zhou Yufeng's father are blood brothers, but it seems that they broke off 20 years ago. Chu Xiang raised her eyebrows in surprise. She had just thought of it on a whim, but she didn't think that there would be a connection. Although Zhou Xinlian's branch and Zhou Yufeng's branch had broken off, Zhou Xinlian had nothing now. If she wanted to enter the Wei family, she had to have a decent background. If Zhou Yufeng became the successor of the city lord of Sea City, then Zhou Xinlian just had to find a way to recognize him. Her status wouldn't be any worse than that of a big family's daughter. Although Zhou Xinlian's reputation was ruined and normal people wouldn't recognize her, nothing was absolute in this world. Zhou Xinlian could be considered a talent for reaching the foundation establishment stage at the age of 18. Chu Xiang didn't like to leave any future troubles for herself. After thinking about it, she found a flat place to sit down. "Young master let's take a break and eat something. If you don't mind, can I take your pulse?" He Yunfei didn't believe that she would take a pulse at such an age. But seeing Chu Xiang's serious look, he smiled and sat across from her and stretched out his hand. Chu Xiang looked at his face and carefully took his pulse. After a while, she frowned and let go of him. "Your body is very difficult to treat. You were attacked and poisoned in your mother's womb, so your body is weak." He Yunfei was quite surprised. "You can really tell? You think I'm lying to you?" Chu Xiang rolled her eyes at him. She counted the medicinal pills in her space, but there really wasn't any that were suitable for the illness. She pondered and said, "If you can get the spiritual marrow and directly cleanse your marrow and bones, then you'll be fine. But spiritual marrow is hard to find. It's hard to find a drop in the whole continent. It's more troublesome to use other medicinal pills, and there's only a 60% chance of curing you." "What? 60%? He Yunfei was really stunned this time. "You and I have a 60% chance of being cured?" Chu Xiang nodded matter-of-factly. "That's right. It's still a conservative 0. 70% is about right. So how many doctors have treated you?" He Yunfei pursed his lips. 20%. Chu Xiang was silent for a long time before she blinked and asked in disbelief. 20%? No wonder this person looked the same age as her, but he didn't have any vitality. It was as if he was just waiting for death. 20%. What was the difference between that and not being able to save him? Although her medical skills weren't comparable to others, she still felt that 20% was too exaggerated. But thinking about it, she understood. Most likely, all the powerful doctors had gone to the Luo continent. In the South Coast continent, there weren't many talented people in all aspects. He Yunfei asked curiously, "I wonder which family this lady is from, and which master is your master? Do you really have a 70% chance of curing me?" Chu Xiang smiled faintly. "I'm going out to gain experience, and I can't do anything else. You just need to know that I'm a medical practitioner, and I can save your life." She seemed even more unfathomable like this. He Yunfei didn't know whether he should believe her or not, but Chu Xiang had an aura that made people believe in her. He hesitated for a moment, then cupped his hands and said, "When we return from the Blue Sea region, could this lady come with me to the city lord's mansion to treat me?" Chu Xiang nodded. We can look for medicinal ingredients first. If we can find all of them, we can refine pills for you when we return. Alright, let's eat first. Once we're full, we'll set off quickly. Yunfei naturally agreed. Just as he was about to take out the food, he saw Chu Xiang take out a wooden table from her space. Then plates of hot delicacies were placed on it, and the aroma assailed his nostrils. He recognized these dishes. They were the signature dishes of the most famous fragrant house in Sea City. The ingredients were all demonic beast meat and spiritual plants. Chu Xiang raised her wine cup and said with a smile, "Young master, please." "Please." Yunfei raised his cup and drank the spiritual wine. He felt as if they weren't here to gain experience, but to go on a picnic. Many people came here to gain experience, but the materials they obtained couldn't be exchanged for spirit stones to buy this table of delicacies. No matter which family this lady was from, she didn't lack money. Yunfei suddenly remembered that he didn't know the lady's name, so he asked in hindsight, "How should I address you?" Chu Xiang smiled and said, "My name is Lin Mu." Lin. Yunfei instantly thought of several families with the surname Lin, but he couldn't match with Chu Xiang. But it didn't matter. He and Chu Xiang hit it off very well. For cultivators, fate was very important, identity was secondary. A few groups of cultivators passing by were attracted by the fragrance. When they came over and saw the two of them eating elegantly, they muttered in their hearts, "Sure enough, it's the style of a young master's sister. They just came to the island, and they're already enjoying it." Chu Xiang didn't care about other people's gazes. She comfortably filled her stomach. The spiritual energy in the delicacies nourished her body. Although it wasn't much, it made her feel warm and very comfortable. She couldn't suffer at any time. Anyway, she now had a mind, so of course she could enjoy it as much as she wanted. Chapter 273. Yunfei had come out to train a few times. When he saw the expressions of some people looking at him, he was obviously jealous. He transmitted his voice to Chu Xiang. "Not everyone here is good. Be careful and don't get separated from me. They are wary of my identity, so they won't touch you openly." Chu Xiang waved her hand indifferently. "I'm not afraid. If they dare to touch me, they have to be able to." Chu Xiang didn't know how to transmit her voice, so she said it directly. The cultivators had sharp ears and eyes, and those who were not too far away heard it. They couldn't see through Chu Xiang's cultivation. They only thought that Chu Xiang's cultivation was higher than theirs, so she was confident. Yunfei was a little puzzled as to why Chu Xiang didn't transmit her voice. He thought that Chu Xiang was being careless. He couldn't help but worry a little. He transmitted his voice to remind her again. The heart is the most important thing. Two fists can't fight against four hands. Chu Xiang nodded and told him the names and appearances of a few medicinal plants. "Do you know where they are? Let's go find the herbs first, and then we'll meet the demonic beasts." "I know. But the bewildering withered grass grows at the edge of the cliff, and there are level 3 snake beasts around. It's not easy to find them. Why don't we issue a mission and let others go?" Yunfei frowned a little awkwardly. Chu Xiang said, "It's okay. We'll go by ourselves. After we pick the bewildering withered grass, we can also get a few snake galls to make medicine. When the time comes, we can eat the snake meat, and the snake skin can be made into a whip. I'm looking for a whip. Let's go." Yunfei hurriedly followed. Demonic beasts were divided into 9 levels. When they cultivated to the 8th level, they could transform into human form and become a demonic cultivator. A level 3 demonic beast's strength was equivalent to a cultivator in the early stage of foundation establishment. There weren't many cultivators in the foundation establishment stage in the South Shore continent. If they were to face 2 or 3 level 3 snake beasts, even those who had completed the foundation establishment stage wouldn't dare to easily deal with them. However, Chu Xiang couldn't possibly be in the golden core stage, right? Many people heard their conversation. Some lamented that they were courting death. Some had evil thoughts and followed them quietly. Some wanted to watch the show and pick up the leftovers. Chu Xiang and Yunfei went straight to the cliff. On the way, they encountered some herbs that Chu Xiang needed, so they stopped to pick them. Chu Xiang was very skilled in picking herbs. She placed all the herbs she picked into a jade box. She really looked like a medical cultivator. The cultivators who pretended to follow them from afar knew from their conversation that Chu Xiang was a medical cultivator with superb medical skills. This time, she was going to treat He Yunfei's illness. They often appeared in Sea City, so they all knew how weak He Yunfei's body was. He was basically waiting for death and living his last few years well. This girl could actually save him? No one believed her. They only thought that she was young and frivolous. Moreover, the title of a medical cultivator made them look down on Chu Xiang a little more. The cultivation of a medical cultivator had never been high, and medical cultivators were not valued in the cultivation world. Practitioners could not get sick. At most, they were poisoned or seriously injured and needed to be treated, but it was enough to use some good pills and medicine for external injuries. Therefore, medical cultivators were ignored in the cultivation world. Alchemists were sought after. After knowing that Chu Xiang was a medical cultivator, they did not think that her cultivation was powerful. Chu Xiang walked all the way to the edge of the cliff. She had found more than half of the herbs she needed. She saw the bewildering withered grass and the 3 level 3 snake beasts beside it. They were all red, which was her favorite color. She immediately smiled. He Yunfei looked back and found that there were about 20 cultivators following them. He was a little nervous and transmitted a voice message. There are many cases of killing and robbing here. Let's go. What do you want? I'll ask my father to send someone to get it. No, it's not necessary. Why bother your father with this? Chu Xiang took out an upper-grade disc array and a piece of upper-grade spirit stone from the space. She pressed it directly in the center of the disc array and threw it out. Before He Yunfei could react, the disc array was activated. It enveloped the two of them, the snake beasts and the bewildering withered grass in a space. The cultivators in the distance could not break in at all. He looked at Chu Xiang in surprise. Chu Xiang took out a pair of exquisite gloves and put them on. It was also an upper-grade magic weapon. Even if there were many tool refiners in Sea City, high-grade magic tools were still rare. Chu Xiang gradually took out high-grade magic tools. Some of the cultivators outside watched with bloodshot eyes, but no matter what they did, they couldn't break in. Chu Xiang looked at the 3 snake beasts who were ready to attack. She ordered He Yunfei to step back and rushed up alone. She did not have any cultivation, but she was agile after washing her marrow and bones. She was wearing a magic robe and gloves, so she was not afraid of being hit. She was not worse than a body cultivator. The unique skill of the 3 snakes was to breathe fire. What was there to be afraid of? The 3 snake beasts were instantly enraged. They breathed fire at Chu Xiang at the same time. Chu Xiang took out a round bead and crushed it. Her body was surrounded by a water curtain, blocking the fire. Chu Xiang took the opportunity to get close to a snake. She fought with the snake for a few moves. She quickly pinched the snake's 7 inches. A upper-grade sharp knife appeared in her hand. She raised the knife and cut out the snake's gallbladder. The other 2 snakes angrily whipped their bodies towards Chu Xiang. Chu Xiang took out a copper bell and tossed it upwards along with a spirit stone. The copper bell immediately transformed and covered her tightly. After the 2 snakes whipped a few times, Chu Xiang immediately came out of the copper bell. The snakes and gallbladders in her hand were gone. Instead, there was a net bag. He saw her put a spirit stone into the net, and the net immediately wrapped around the 2 snakes. It expanded into a dense net, and the 2 snakes were caught in the net accurately. The 2 snakes were still spitting fire. Chu Xiang crushed another round bead, and the water screen blocked the flames. She held the dagger and quickly gouged out the gallbladders of the 2 enraged snakes. The snakes fell limply to the ground. Chu Xiang gasped and sat on the ground. She wiped the sweat on her head and said, "I'm so tired." He Yunfei and the cultivators outside the array were dumbfounded. "You're tired? You used so many upper-grade magic tools to deal with the 3 snakes. You killed them in just a few moves. You're still tired? Then wouldn't we be tired to death from fighting the demonic beasts?" Chu Xiang gasped for breath. She waved her hand to put away the copper bell, gloves, net bag and other magic tools. Then, she threw out another snake from the space. She waved at He Yunfei and said, "Do you know how to peel the skin? I want the whole one. You see, in order to make a beautiful whip, I only hit their 7 inches. I didn't use any cruel means. Yunfei thought of the way she raised the knife and cut it. He thought that she might have some misunderstanding about cruelty. Then he silently walked over and took out a knife. I know how to. Take a rest. I'll finish it soon. Okay. I'm tired from walking and fighting. After you finish, we'll have dinner. Why don't we sleep here tonight? Chu Xiang set up the wooden table again. She sat on the soft futon and took out a tea set to make tea. Although the cultivators couldn't enter the array, they could smell the aroma of the spiritual tea. Who on earth was this girl named Lin Mu? Why did she have so many good things? Could it be that there was a new rising family in the imperial city? They didn't show any greedy thoughts. The 3 snake beasts were all in the foundation building period. If they went in, they might not be able to escape unscathed. Chu Xiang not only came out unscathed, but also killed the 3 snake beasts so quickly. Judging from the magic tools she showed, this person was very difficult to deal with. Who knew what kind of powerful magic tools she had? However, it was impossible for them to retreat. After all, demonic beasts were demonic beasts. Just now, Chu Xiang moved too fast, which created an illusion for them. Perhaps the 3 snakes didn't even have time to react, and were killed by the fire they spat out. If it were them, they would have all kinds of spells, magic tools and talismans. Chu Xiang's magic tools wouldn't be able to deal with them. In addition, Chu Xiang relied too much on magic tools. It seemed that her cultivation level was not high. Even the magic tools she used were powered by spirit stones. Sure enough, medical cultivators were not good. They just didn't know why they couldn't see through Chu Xiang's cultivation level. Anyway, Chu Xiang would come out of the array sooner or later. At that time, they would act according to the circumstances. For the time being, they still couldn't show any inappropriate expression. Some cultivators who came to watch the fun greeted Chu Xiang with a smile. Miss Lin, where did you come from? I've never heard of you before. Today you showed a very powerful move. You have too many high-grade magic tools. Chu Xiang sipped her spiritual tea and smiled faintly. It's all right. The elders at home dote on me, so I can take whatever I want from the storeroom. I just took some that I like to play with. May I ask which Lin family Miss Lin is from? Chu Xiang raised her index finger and shushed them. Not all families want to be famous. Have you heard of hermits? In my family, I'm the only one who likes to come out to play. Everyone in my family likes to be hermits. Don't ask. I see. Sorry for the offense. Everyone looked at each other. It wasn't good to ask anymore. In the South Shore continent, other than the 4 great families with a long history, there were also some families and new nobles. Some families didn't like to be in the limelight, but they had never heard of families who were hermits. However, if the entire family liked to be hermits, they naturally wouldn't let the world know. If there wasn't such a family, then how could Chu Xiang casually take out so many high-grade magic tools? However, Chu Xiang's actions made the cultivators who wanted to make a move on her back off. It wasn't a big deal if the daughter of the family died. However, if the descendant of a powerful hermit really died, then this mysterious hermit family would definitely investigate to the end. Seeing that this girl was very doted on in her family, they really shouldn't provoke her. Moreover, this girl had so many good things on her. She could kill 3 third-level snake beasts by herself. How powerful was this hermit family? Chu Xiang's words made them imagine a powerful backer for Chu Xiang. Chu Xiang slightly curved her lips and continued to drink her tea with satisfaction. Yunfei had been listening attentively. When he heard that she had such a powerful backer, he was very surprised. At the same time, he was relieved. Chu Xiang was picking herbs to treat his illness. If something happened because of this, then even if he died 10,000 times, he wouldn't be able to absolve himself from the blame. Fortunately, Chu Xiang had a powerful backer behind her, so he was relieved. After Yunfei dealt with the snake beasts, Chu Xiang took out a box and put the things in it. Then she put out a table full of delicious food just like at noon. Yunfei used the cleaning technique to clean himself and his surroundings. Suddenly, he felt a little strange. Just now, Chu Xiang deliberately found a clean place to sit. Why didn't she use the cleaning technique? He looked at Chu Xiang and remembered that Chu Xiang used a spirit stone every time she fought. Could it be that Chu Xiang didn't have any spiritual power? But how was this possible? How could a person without spiritual power kill 3 third-level snake beasts? How could a person without spiritual power dare to enter the Blue Sea region alone? There were many people who were as confused as him, but Chu Xiang didn't dispel their doubts. She was just an ordinary person. After fighting for half a day, she was really tired. She quickly ate her fill and went to sleep. It was said that the best weapon refiner in the South Shore continent was in the City Lord's mansion. She worked so hard to save the City Lord's son. When she returned, she must ask that master to refine a beautiful whip for her. Chapter 274. Chu Xiang and He Yunfei were enjoying the delicacies in the defensive array. The aroma of the delicacies made the stomachs of the cultivators outside growl, and they quickly dispersed. Before they figured out which family was behind Chu Xiang, they did not dare to act rashly. Although the magic artifacts were good, they could not compare to cultivation. If they offended a big family for those magic artifacts, they might lose their lives. The itinerant cultivators did not dare to act rashly. Those cultivators whose families had some power quickly sent messages back to their families and asked them to investigate clearly. Such a hermit family might have some benefits. After eating, Chu Xiang stretched her body and asked He Yunfei to pick the bewildering withered grass at the edge of the cliff. He Yunfei hesitated and said, "The bewildering withered grass is not easy to preserve. It might be a waste to pick so many of them. Only by growing them here can they get the best nutrients." Chu Xiang yawned and said, "It's okay. Just pick them." He Yunfei saw that she was a little tired and did not say anything else. He took the jade box and the herb spade and went to pick the herbs. He felt that it was quite natural for Chu Xiang to order him around. He had never been ordered around by anyone in his entire life. However, the strange thing was that he did not feel the slightest bit of unwillingness. Instead, he felt that it was only natural. He Yunfei shook his head and laughed. He felt that he might be drunk from drinking a few cups of spiritual wine. When He Yunfei returned from picking the herbs, he saw that the table had been put away by Chu Xiang. It was replaced by a bed with thick and tight curtains. Chu Xiang was setting up screens around the bed. He Yunfei was speechless. "Do you always enjoy yourself so much when you go out? Bringing the delicacies of the restaurant and a high bed?" He Yunfei could not help but ask. Chu Xiang nodded as if it was a matter of course. The poor have to make themselves more comfortable outside. Otherwise, how can I have the energy to train? He Yunfei was speechless. It was the first time he heard such a fallacious argument. Shouldn't it be harder to train one's mind during training? Who would bring a bed with them? Chu Xiang set up the screens and looked around. She nodded with satisfaction and asked He Yunfei, "I also have a tent. Do you want it?" He Yunfei shook his head. "No, thank you. I'll just meditate." "Oh, then rest early. We still have to hunt demonic beasts tomorrow. You must be very tired," Chu Xiang said. She took the box from his hand and laid down on the bed, sleeping peacefully. As for the bewildering withered grass, she had the heaven and earth mirror transplanted it into her space. The space could also have cliffs, and in the future, she might be able to catch some demonic beasts. However, there are spirit veins in the space. If a demonic beast were to cultivate inside and transform into a demonic cultivator, it wouldn't be good. It's better to be careful when raising living things. Chu Xiang was tired and slept soundly. However, He Yunfei couldn't concentrate on meditating. His mind was filled with thoughts about Chu Xiang. Could Chu Xiang really cure him? Was there really a hidden family behind Chu Xiang? Did Chu Xiang have any cultivation? Did those cultivators who had their eyes on Chu Xiang give up? Would they look for trouble with Chu Xiang again in the future? Although they had only known each other for a day, He Yunfei inexplicably trusted Chu Xiang. He even started to worry about her. However, when he heard Chu Xiang's breathing after she fell asleep, he shook his head and laughed. The person in question wasn't worried at all, so what was he worried about? It was really the case that the eunuch was more anxious than the emperor. He Yunfei shook off the chaotic thoughts in his mind and calmed down to meditate and cultivate. He cultivated very hard, and also worked very hard to survive. His mother passed away shortly after he was born. He and his father had a deep relationship. He really couldn't bear to let his father bear the pain of losing his son. He also couldn't bear to leave his father alone in this world. If Chu Xiang could really save him, then Chu Xiang would be the biggest benefactor of his family. They quieted down, but the news about Chu Xiang spread out with the movement of more than 20 cultivators. Many people on the island knew that there was a girl named Lin Mu, who was the daughter of a hidden family. Any magic weapon she took out was a top-grade magic weapon. She killed 3 level 3 snakes in a few breaths. Her strength was extraordinary, and she couldn't be provoked. When Zhou Yufeng heard this, he just had a romantic affair with his lover. Hearing that Chu Xiang had so many good things and seemed to have a high status, he was full of regret. If only he had insisted at that time. She was a girl who was raised by a hermit. She had never seen the outside world. Wouldn't he be able to cheat her with a few words? At that time, if Chu Xiang really had such a powerful family behind her, he would have everything after marrying Chu Xiang. How could he miss such a good opportunity, because of He Yunfei? He asked the guards to pack up, and took them to the cliff where Chu Xiang was. Other people who had only heard about it but never seen it also came to have a look out of curiosity. As a result, when they arrived, they saw He Yunfei meditating and practicing in the tactical matrix. There was a step bed some distance away from him. There were curtains and screens around the bed, which tightly covered the bed. Everyone was stunned. A step bed? She was really the daughter of a rich family. She couldn't bear a little hardship when she went out. Even Zhou Yufeng relied on meditation to pass the night. Who would take this kind of thing when they went out to practice? However, this made them believe that Chu Xiang was from a hidden family. This unusual style of doing things was very different from that of an ordinary family. Since she was resting, they didn't want to disturb her. Those who had nothing to do left, and those who wanted to rest meditated. Zhou Yufeng didn't want to miss the opportunity to subdue Chu Xiang, so he directly rested and waited outside the tactical matrix. The next morning, the news about Sister Lin Mu had spread all over the island. Chu Xiang stretched herself and sat up. She tidied herself up and walked out of the screen. He Yunfei opened his eyes and smiled at her. "Miss Lin, have you had a good rest?" Chu Xiang nodded, "Very good. It's almost the same as at home." She waved her hand and put away the step bed. Then she heard Zhou Yufeng's laughter. "Miss Lin, we meet again. We are really destined to meet." Chu Xiang glanced at him and didn't respond. She said to He Yunfei, "Let's go after breakfast. We are busy today." Okay. He Yunfei always knew that his cousin was a playboy and had a way with women. At this time, seeing Chu Xiang didn't care about Zhou Yufeng, he felt a little refreshed. Zhou Yufeng saw that they were sitting opposite each other, and didn't want to talk to him at all. He felt a little embarrassed, but he still smiled. "Cousin Miss Lin, it's fate that we met. Besides, I don't trust my cousin to wander around the Blue Sea area. Why don't we go together? Miss Lin, you must be spoiled at home. If you need anything, you can ask my guards to do it for you." Chu Xiang thought that if she needed anything, she could ask He Yunfei to do it. Why would she need the guards? They were an eyesore. Chu Xiang didn't respond. He Yunfei was happy to see his cousin suffer. It made Zhou Yufeng feel like he was singing a one-man show. It was very awkward. Zhou Yufeng felt the eyes of the cultivators nearby. He was a little annoyed. He snorted and left with his people. Although he coveted Chu Xiang's high-grade magic weapon, he was also pampered since he was young. He couldn't stand this. When the delicate girl suffered enough in this place, she would know how good it was to have guards. At that time he didn't know who would beg who. Chu Xiang waited for him to leave. Then she asked He Yunfei curiously. He, the nephew of the city lord, brought 4 guards when he went out. Why did you come to the Blue Sea area alone? Did you really sneak out willfully? He Yunfei quickly waved his hand. No, I came out after reporting to my father. Although my father is worried about my health, he doesn't spoil me. In the past, the guards accompanied me here many times. I'm already very familiar with this place. When I grew up, I would occasionally come here by myself. I don't go to dangerous places. I just want to relax. Chu Xiang nodded. Oh, it seems that the snake beasts yesterday were the biggest danger you encountered. He Yunfei smiled. Yes, I thought of several ways to deal with them. Who knew that you could deal with the snake beasts so easily? I admire you. In the future, there will be many things you admire. Let's go. We'll gather the medicinal plants today. Chu Xiang put away the array disc and walked out with He Yunfei. Some cultivators had been lingering nearby. They had attacked the array formation before. But now that the array formation was gone, they didn't dare to do anything to Chu Xiang. The more mysterious a person was, the more people didn't dare to make a move. Just like that, a crisis disappeared without a trace. Chu Xiang found useful medicinal plants along the way and asked He Yunfei to pick them. She sat on a chair and fanned herself while drinking tea. Whenever she encountered a demonic beast that she wanted to eat, she would ask He Yunfei to hunt it. If He Yunfei's strength was not enough, she would take out a few high-grade magical artifacts to deal with it. Because of her maverick behavior, there were always other cultivators nearby who paid attention to her movements. Along the way, they had broadened their horizons. It turned out that life experience could also be like a spring outing, and high-grade magical artifacts could also be taken out as if they didn't cost money. In just a short day, they had seen Chu Xiang take out more than a dozen different high-grade magical artifacts. Chu Xiang really couldn't show off. The magical artifacts she took out were aimed at those demonic beasts. They just happened to be able to restrain the demonic beast's unique skills. Naturally, she could easily take down those demonic beasts. Everyone saw that they had picked more than 20 kinds of medicinal plants and hunted 6 kinds of demonic beasts, a total of 17. They were so envious that they couldn't wait to seize Chu Xiang's body and replace her. Chu Xiang simply ignored their emotional fluctuations. She took out magical artifacts that could restrain different magical artifacts, which made everyone even more afraid to act rashly. After all, they only knew the 5 elements of magical artifacts. Chu Xiang could restrain the demonic beasts so naturally, she could also restrain them. Seeing the fate of those demonic beasts, the people who were scheming felt their hair stand on end. They became more and more restrained in their actions. Chu Xiang and the others went to the water area, intending to pick a few kinds of spiritual plants from the sea, and catch a few demonic beasts from the sea. Just as everyone entered the sea one after another, Chu Xiang took out 2 beads and gave one to He Yunfei. Here, water-avoiding bead. If you can feel comfortable, don't get yourself wet. Quickly find the things we need, don't lose your mind. Okay. He Yunfei knew about the water-avoiding bead, but he had never seen it before. He took it in his hand and looked at it curiously. After entering the sea, he found that he could walk and breathe freely in the water. The seawater was close to him but didn't touch him. It was really amazing. In the exclamation of the crowd, Chu Xiang also entered the sea and went deep with He Yunfei. When they passed by a school of fish, they took advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention to throw a few fishes into the space and let the seawater in to keep them alive. Chu Xiang found that this method was feasible. Immediately, like a girl who saw the underwater scenery for the first time, she curiously played with the school of fish with a smile. She drilled into each school of fish. Soon, the sea in the space was filled with all kinds of fish. In the space with abundant reiki, the fish swam more happily. Chu Xiang saw the vibrant space and was in a good mood. She must make the space into a paradise in the future, a place that belonged to her alone. Chapter 275. The cultivators only saw Chu Xiang playing in the school of fish and shook their heads. How could such good resources belong to a hermit family? They didn't seek fame and fortune, and didn't pursue the great Tao. Their daughter only knew how to enjoy herself. If the Lin family was willing to recruit followers, they would be willing to go. The good things leaked out from the Lin family's fingers were enough for them to work hard for more than 10 years. However, they only dared to think about it, and didn't dare to do anything. The water-repelling pearl Chu Xiang took out was something that even the first family of the South Bank, the Wei family, didn't have. This further proved the strength of the Hermit Lin family. Generally, big families were very protective of their descendants. It was rare for cultivators to have descendants, so the elders would use some life-saving means or special connections on their descendants. If someone here killed Chu Xiang, the elders on the other side would immediately know who did it, so no one dared to do anything. Chu Xiang collected a lot of fish, seaweed and so on. There were too many people and eyes, so she couldn't collect everything. She was not in a hurry anyway, there would be plenty of opportunities in the future. She turned to find He Yunfei. With the water-repelling pearl, they easily collected all kinds of spiritual plants on the seabed. When collecting, they encountered a few fish beasts with sharp teeth, all of which were about the second level. Chu Xiang didn't have to do anything, He Yunfei killed them. He Yunfei had metal and wood dual spiritual roots. Chu Xiang could see that although He Yunfei was only in the middle stage of aura refining, his foundation was very solid. He also learned a lot of spells, so he must be very diligent. If it weren't for his weak body, which hindered his cultivation, he would have built his foundation by now. However, the cultivation of a second-level demonic beast was equivalent to the middle stage of aura refining. He Yunfei was evenly matched with them, so he relied on learning a lot to kill them. It was very bloody. Chu Xiang frowned and shook her head, telling him to concentrate on collecting spiritual plants. If there were any fish beasts coming, she would take out her magic weapon to kill them quickly. She took out all kinds of upper-grade magic weapons. Not only did she keep the fish beasts intact, but she also rarely saw blood. The other cultivators were envious. The soft and tough skin of the fish beasts was a good material for making magic clothes. Chu Xiang knew that she was very eye-catching, but why would anyone be willing to follow her if she was not eye-catching? Being low-key and pretending to be weak was not her style. In any case, she was a devil cultivator who had lived for tens of thousands of years. She knew countless things. Even if she did not have any cultivation and only had a magic weapon, she could still beat them up. Of course, she was not afraid at all. In the cultivation world, the strong preyed on the weak. If you want to live, you should live to your heart's content. What's the point of being afraid of everything? She killed a dozen fish beasts, a level 3 turtle beast, and a level 4 clam beast. She dug out quite a few high-quality pearls the size of fists, which were all great materials for refining. Even if the others were envious, they couldn't do anything about it. They didn't have Chu Xiang's magic tools, and most of them were in the aura refining stage, so they didn't dare to fight against 3rd or 4th ranked demonic beasts. When Chu Xiang was tired and saw that He Yunfei had also picked up the spiritual plants, she waved her hand and asked him to go ashore with her. It was the first time that He Yunfei had used the water-repelling pearl. Now that he could travel freely in the sea without worrying about the demonic beasts, he was thinking of getting more good stuff. Seeing that Chu Xiang was going ashore, he thought that something was wrong. However, he heard Chu Xiang say, "I'm tired. It's getting dark. Let's find a place to eat and take a rest." He Yunfei looked back at the sea and reluctantly withdrew his gaze. Okay, since the boss said so, he would eat. He Yunfei returned the water-repelling pearl to Chu Xiang. They were about to leave, when they saw a girl rushing out of the sea covered in blood. Seeing them, the girl seemed to be afraid that she would cause them trouble and hurriedly fled in another direction. But the person behind her had already chased after her. Chu Xiang raised her eyebrows and decided not to leave. The person who chased after the girl turned out to be Zhou Yufeng. Zhou Yufeng was unlucky. Zhou Yufeng flew over and waved his folding fan. A wind blade went straight for the girl's neck. The girl nimbly dodged but fell to the ground due to exhaustion. It was too late for her to escape. Zhou Yufeng's folding fan was already at her neck. Zhou Yufeng's face darkened. Hand over the sea crocodile. The girl's eyes were extremely bright, full of hatred and unyielding. Even in the face of danger, she was not afraid at all. "I risked my life to hunt the sea crocodile. Why should I give it to you? Just because you saw it from the side? You rely on your eyeballs to cultivate?" Zhou Yufeng hit the girl's shoulder with his folding fan. The girl gritted her teeth and groaned. Zhou Yufeng sneered and pinched the girl's chin. He leaned over and said, "You look good and have a hot temper. Why don't you come back with me and be this young master's concubine?" "Bah! Despicable and shameless. You don't deserve it." The girl's spiritual energy exploded, and the nearby branches whipped at Zhou Yufeng. Zhou Yufeng could not dodge in time, and a bloody mark appeared on his face. He was immediately furious and raised his hand to kill He Yunfei. He flew over and reprimanded, "Zhou Yufeng, you've gone too far." Zhou Yufeng viciously stared at him and said angrily, "Get lost. You're helping an outsider and not me. Don't blame me for not caring about our brotherhood." Chu Xiang walked in front of the girl and looked at her face. She pulled her up and helped her remove the leaves from her hair. "You only have a chance if you're alive. Don't try to blow yourself up so easily." The girl looked at Chu Xiang in surprise. How could Chu Xiang see through her plan to blow herself up? Zhou Yufeng looked at them coldly. "What do you mean? She's just an unappreciative thing. Why are you two protecting her?" Chu Xiang turned around and sized him up. She said in surprise, "You actually know the words unappreciative? Aren't you the one who doesn't know what's good for you and doesn't know where you stand? What? Do you think you're so great just because you're the city lord's nephew? The city lord just doesn't have time to care about you. Look at He Yunfei. He's the city lord's son, and he's so polite to everyone. If you want to be a tyrant, you have to ask if everyone agrees or not." The cultivators nearby looked at Zhou Yufeng. They were already dissatisfied with him. When they heard Chu Xiang's words, their emotions naturally wavered. Although they did not care about Zhou Yufeng's identity, their gazes made Zhou Yufeng very uncomfortable. Zhou Yufeng had been humiliated by Chu Xiang a few times, and he no longer cared about which family Chu Xiang was from. In any case, it was impossible for the city lord to ignore him. With a wave of his hand, dozens of wind blades flew towards Chu Xiang. Yunfei's face sank. He put up his golden shield. The girl also immediately controlled her vines to block in front of Chu Xiang. Chu Xiang, on the other hand, pushed them away and took out a sword. She raised her hand and pressed a spirit stone into the groove on the sword hilt. With a forceful slash, not only did she break the wind blades in front of her, she also directly split Zhou Yufeng's folding fan in half. Zhou Yufeng was shocked. His folding fan was a middle-grade magic tool. Even if Chu Xiang's was a high-grade magic tool, she should only be at a disadvantage. How could it be split in half? Unless Chu Xiang's magic tool was a high-grade magic tool. Zhou Yufeng quickly retreated and scolded. "What are you still looking at? Why aren't you catching her?" The 4 guards he brought immediately stepped forward. Unlike Wei Lingxiao, who brought Foundation establishment guards, Zhou Yufeng was only the nephew of the city lord of Sea City. The guards he brought were all in the middle stage of qi refinement. Chu Xiang also wouldn't kill the innocent. She changed to a heavy hammer and hammered the 4 guards to the ground. Zhou Yufeng turned pale with fright and hurriedly tried to escape. However, Chu Xiang didn't give him a chance at all. She hammered heavily on his body again and again. Zhou Yufeng's face was bruised and swollen, and his whole body was in pain. He couldn't help but scream. More and more people were attracted to watch. When they saw Chu Xiang's ferocious actions and the trace of a smile on the corner of her mouth, they couldn't help but have goosebumps. They were all glad that they didn't provoke Chu Xiang. Then they saw Chu Xiang take out that sword again. With a few beautiful sword moves, the middle-grade magic robe on Zhou Yufeng's body was torn apart. He was only left with a pair of underpants. He was battered and exhausted. Only then did Chu Xiang stop. She panted and shook her wrist. So tired. It was indeed very tiring for her to use that kind of heavy hammer and sword, but the group of people looked at her speechlessly. "You beat people like this and you're still tired?" Suddenly, someone dared to say, "If Miss Lin feels tired, you can order us to do this kind of thing. The reward is very low." The others glanced at him and secretly scolded him for being a thief. Then many people shouted, "Miss Lin, my reward is low. I'll be your guard." "Miss Lin, I'm about to build my foundation. As long as you reward me with some elixirs, I'll follow your lead. Miss Lin, I'm good at making traps. Catching demonic beasts is not bloody at all. The reward is not high." Chu Xiang ignored them. She pointed at Zhou Yufeng, who was paralyzed, and said, "You work for me? Then do you dare to hit him?" Everyone quieted down. Who didn't know that He Yunfei's life was about to end? The future lord of Sea City would be Zhou Yufeng. They really didn't dare to hit him. Chu Xiang snorted. "You don't even dare to hit people. What's the use of having you? Spread out. Don't block the way." Everyone had just seen her ferocious appearance. Who dared to block her way? Immediately, everyone spread out. Chu Xiang mocked Zhou Yufeng, who was wailing on the ground. It's just some superficial wounds. It hurts a little. Is it worth it for you to scream like this? You're not even as good as a girl. Zhou Yufeng glared at her with red eyes. You. How dare you? I don't care who you are. I'll never let you go. Chu Xiang frowned. Is there something wrong with your brain? You started it first. Can't I fight back? But since you're like this, should I kill you? Anyway, you won't let me go when you go back. Zhou Yufeng saw that she seemed to be really going to take out her magic tool, and immediately cowered. No, please spare my life. I won't dare to do it again. My uncle is the Lord of Sea City. If you kill me, he won't let you go. It's better to talk things over. When I go back, I'll ask my family to prepare a generous gift. It wasn't that he was cowardly. It was just that Chu Xiang said the words kill you too casually and too easily. It was as if she really didn't care about his identity. If she wanted to kill him, she would kill him. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Zhou Yufeng hurriedly begged for mercy in a low voice. He didn't want to die here. Chu Xiang looked at him and said to the girl, "See what he has. He wants to kill you and steal your treasure. Take his storage bag as compensation first." The girl's eyes brightened. She immediately went to take Zhou Yufeng's storage bag. While she was at it, she kicked Zhou Yufeng twice. The girl poured the contents of the storage bag onto the ground. There were quite a few low-grade spirit stones and a few mid-grade spirit stones. In the South Bank, this was considered a rich young master. There was also a mid-grade magic tool, a low-grade magic tool, a few bottles of low-grade pills and some talismans. Chu Xiang only swept a glance over it. Keep it. I'm tired and hungry. Eat. It wasn't that she didn't want to look at the storage bag. It was just that she didn't have a cultivation base. She couldn't open it. But seeing that He Yunfei consciously used the cleaning spell to clean up an area, the girl also controlled the surrounding vines to form a circle, creating a space for them. She felt very comfortable. There were people doing these things. She didn't need to do it herself. The girl respectfully bowed to Chu Xiang and said gratefully, "Thank you, Miss Lin, for saving my life." Chu Xiang waved her hand. "No need to thank me. I saved you because of your good looks. You should thank yourself for your good character." He Yunfei. Wasn't she a medical cultivator? Did she know physiognomy? Chapter 276. The young girl's name is Luoyu. She has dual spiritual roots of water and wood, and is in the 9th layer of the aura refining realm. She risked her life to hunt sea crocodiles because she accepted a mission. The mission reward was quite generous, mainly because there was a mid-grade medicinal pill that might be able to cure her seriously ill grandfather. Her grandfather has mixed spiritual roots, and only reached the 3rd layer of the aura refining realm after cultivating for 100 years. He's nearing the end of his lifespan and has been ill for a long time. After dinner, Chu Xiang took out the bed and Luoyu immediately went forward to help her make it. Chu Xiang smiled at her and patted her shoulder. "Don't worry. When we return, I'll go see your grandfather." Luoyu was pleasantly surprised. "Thank you, Miss Lin. Miss Lin saved my life. I'm willing to go through fire and water for Miss Lin. If Miss Lin can cure my grandfather, I'm willing to be your slave." Chu Xiang waved her hand. "I'll see. Oh, that's right. This medicinal pill is for you. Have a good rest and recover from your injuries." Chu Xiang threw her a mid-grade medicinal pill. Luoyu caught it hesitantly, afraid that she would drop it. When she raised her head, she saw that Chu Xiang had already gone to sleep behind the screen. She sat cross-legged not far from the screen and looked at the medicinal pill for a long time, not willing to eat it. She had never touched a mid-grade medicinal pill in her life. She didn't expect that Chu Xiang would give her one so casually. He Yunfei said in a low voice, "Quickly heal yourself. I wonder if Miss Lin still wants to hunt demonic beasts tomorrow. At that time, if you can help, Miss Lin can rest a bit more." Luoyu thought of Chu Xiang's tired appearance and lowered her head with a smile. She raised her hand and swallowed the medicinal pill. She closed her eyes and began to circulate her cultivation technique to heal her injuries. Yunfei lowered his head and sighed. If his body was better, he could have reached the 9th layer of the aura refining realm, or even the foundation building realm by now. He didn't feel good seeing Chu Xiang complaining about being tired but not being able to help, especially when the person who wanted to bully Chu Xiang today was his cousin. This made him feel even more ashamed. When he returned, he must report this to his father and strictly control the Zhou clan. This time, Chu Xiang did not set up a defensive array. However, Luo Yu and He Yunfei were meditating on both sides of the bed. None of the other cultivators dared to offend them. Zhou Yufeng had already been beaten up to such a state. They were not even as good as Zhou Yufeng, so they did not go looking for a beating. The next day, Chu Xiang got up and thought about it. She had 2 patients to treat now, and there was no one else on this island that she could take a liking to. It was better to go back early. Her exhaustion from the fight had long disappeared. After all, the food and tea she ate contained spiritual energy. Even if it wasn't much, it was enough to eliminate her physical exhaustion. In any case, her body had been cleansed, so she was full of energy after a good night's sleep. Chu Xiang took out a soft chair and sat comfortably on it. In front of her was a square table filled with spirit fruits and jade nectar. The others didn't know what she was going to do and looked over curiously. Chu Xiang drank a mouthful of jade nectar and said, "The things I need are still missing a few. If any of you have them, you can sell them to me. The price is better than the shops outside." After saying that, she suddenly thought that she might need a lot of materials, so she immediately said, "Don't limit yourself to those few. If you have anything you want to sell, take it out and let me see. I'll give you a good price for what I want. This way, you don't have to worry about people robbing your things, and you don't have to take them back to find buyers. If you have free time, you can continue to search for treasures here. I only have 4 hours, so I want to sell them quickly." Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Many of them were a little afraid of Chu Xiang. It was very easy to encounter people who killed people to steal their treasures outside. There were even more people who didn't kill people and only stole their treasures. Chu Xiang had beaten Zhou Yufeng to such a state yesterday, and even stole all of Zhou Yufeng's things. They were a little afraid that Chu Xiang would only take the things and not pay. However, there were still some people with lower cultivation who accidentally obtained good things. They were always afraid that someone would come to rob them, so they simply boldly asked Chu Xiang if she wanted it. Chu Xiang glanced at it. It was a medicinal plant that was guarded by a demonic beast. She guessed that the demonic beast had left or died in a battle somewhere else, so this person picked it up. The space was empty, and the medicinal plant was missing something. Chu Xiang nodded and took out a spirit stone and threw it over. That person was delighted. He hurriedly caught the spirit stone and handed the medicinal plant to He Yunfei. He Yunfei was very careful. He had already found out that Chu Xiang loved to be clean. He carefully handled the medicinal plant and put it into a box before giving it to Chu Xiang. When other people saw this, one after another, they came to try to sell their things. At first, it was mainly the things that Chu Xiang had pointed out. Later, everyone saw that Chu Xiang was very nice and was very straightforward in giving out spirit stones. They all came up and took out everything that they wanted to sell and asked. Chu Xiang bought most of the things. There were only a few things that were really useless. She guessed that there were people who wanted to make up the numbers and sell their junk for money. However, Chu Xiang's eyes were sharp. Even if there were many people, she only wanted the things that she wanted. He Yunfei and Luo Yu helped her tidy up the things and put them in a pile in front of her. She waved her hand and put them into the space. The space had the heaven and earth mirror to help her tidy it up. The cultivators who finished selling their things all had smiles on their faces. They felt incomparably relaxed. They felt that the Blue Sea region was much safer. After they left, they spread the news. The cultivators who were hunting demonic beasts and collecting spiritual plants also came one after another. In just 4 hours, almost everyone on the island had come to sell their things. The heaven and earth mirror then built a house inside the space as a storehouse to store all the items. The remaining cultivators who didn't come to sell their items were either keeping them for their own use, taking them back for their own tasks, or had already made a deal with someone else. When they saw that Chu Xiang was so generous, they felt a little regretful that they missed such a good opportunity. They worked so hard to come out, but they didn't make a lot of money. There were also people who asked Chu Xiang if she would accept things in the future. If they found something again, they could sell it to Chu Xiang. Chu Xiang thought for a moment and said, "Yes, but the things must be good. If you want to sell something, go to the mansion behind the fragrant fragrance house. If you can't find it there, go to the city lord's mansion." Everyone quickly agreed. Then, they thought that Chu Xiang actually lived behind the fragrant fragrance house. Such an expensive house. Could it be that she lived there for the convenience of eating delicious food? That was true. Chu Xiang couldn't fly on her sword, and it wasn't convenient for her to use magic tools in daily life. When she went out, she could only walk. Only when she was close to the best restaurant could she eat good food. The fragrant fragrance house was in an excellent location, and there were all kinds of shops nearby. It was convenient for her to live there. When 2 hours were up, Chu Xiang put away the things and told He Yunfei and Luo Yu to leave. The ships that entered the Blue Sea area came once every 5 days. Every time, they would send a group of people and pick up the previous group. It was only the 3rd day since they came here, and there were no ships that could return to the island. Only those in the foundation building realm could fly on their swords. There were only a few people in the foundation building realm on the island. Therefore, even though Zhou Yufeng was beaten so badly and humiliated, he just hid and didn't leave. The others were still wondering why Chu Xiang wanted to leave. She even went to the beam. They saw Chu Xiang take out a palm-sized boat and throw it into the sea. The boat immediately became a big boat. Chu Xiang took the 2 people with her and left. She left just like that. The cultivators on the island were not used to seeing her leave. They sighed again at her wealth and continued to look for good things. Chu Xiang was generous. If they could find more things to sell to her, they could make more money. When the time came, they could buy more things that were suitable for them. For a time, the cultivators on the island became diligent. When Chu Xiang and the others returned to the Sea City Pier, they immediately attracted the attention of all the people on the pier. After all, it had been a long time since anyone used magic tools to cross the sea. When they saw He Yunfei, they all thought that it was probably refined by the golden core blacksmith in the city lord's mansion. They couldn't help but sigh at He Yunfei's good life. Even if his health was not good, he had the city lord's protection. The city lord had already sent people to guard the pier. As soon as He Yunfei got off the boat, 2 guards in the early stage of the foundation building realm came forward. When the 2 guards saw that he wasn't injured, they sighed in relief. They said respectfully, "Young city lord, did something happen to you when you came back early?" He Yunfei waved his hand, turned around and helped Chu Xiang down. He smiled and said, "I made a good friend and gained a lot, so I came back first." When the others heard what he said, they looked at Chu Xiang curiously. When they saw Chu Xiang put away the boat, they became even more curious. Who was this young lady? The young city lord valued her so much. Could it be that the city lord was looking for a wife for the young city lord? They had never heard of her. Chu Xiang tidied up her clothes. "Yunfei, you look good. Your body is fine for now. However, Yu's glabella is dark. I'm afraid something happened to her grandfather. I'll go see him first." Luo Yu's expression changed. "Young lady, did something happen to my grandfather? Don't be afraid. We'll go now." Chu Xiang's calm appearance reassured Luo Yu. However, she was still very anxious and wanted to fly back. He Yunfei said seriously, "I'll go with you. He Xiao He and go back and get more medicinal herbs." When Chu Xiang heard that, she said, "It'd be best if you also brought a concocting master." He Yunfei looked at the 2 guards. The 2 guards immediately expressed that they understood. However, He Yan went back to handle some matters. He Xiao insisted on following He Yunfei. They had never seen Chu Xiang before, and didn't know who Luo Yu was. Seeing that He Yunfei trusted the 2 of them very much, they were a little worried that he would be deceived. They had to follow him to be at ease. When Chu Xianglai arrived at the pier, they took a carriage and left it at the pier. Now they were taking them to get it. After they got on the carriage, they found that the outside of the carriage was simple and unadorned, but the inside was very luxurious and comfortable. This kind of comfort was generally liked by the royal family. They were cultivators, so they wouldn't feel uncomfortable or bumpy. Therefore, they felt that Chu Xiang's preferences were a little strange. He Yunfei thought of the strange feeling on Chu Xiang's body. Could it be that Chu Xiang really didn't have any cultivation? Was that why she cared so much about comfort? Anyway, they quickly and comfortably rushed to Luo Yu's house. It was a very old mud house, but it was very clean. Presumably, even if Luo Yu's cultivation was not bad, she had to bear a lot of pressure to treat her grandfather's illness. Therefore, she could only live in such a place. Luo Yu opened the door and rushed in while shouting for her grandfather. Chu Xiang followed her in, and saw that the old man lying on the bed was already gasping for air. He was about to die. Luo Yu was so anxious that she cried, Miss, please take a look. Can my grandfather be saved?" She didn't cry when she was almost killed, but when she saw her grandfather in such a state, she couldn't stop crying. When she left, she knew that her grandfather's illness had worsened. This trip to the Blue Sea region was her last hope. Even if she completed the mission by killing the sea crocodile, the medicinal pills she obtained might not be able to cure her grandfather. She was already in despair, so when Zhou Yufeng wanted to snatch the treasure and humiliate her, she wanted to self-destruct. However, after seeing how powerful Chu Xiang was, she inexplicably had a glimmer of hope. She looked at Chu Xiang eagerly. Chu Xiang took the old man's pulse and took out a medicinal pill for him to swallow. She said, "Don't worry, it can be cured." Chapter 277. Chu Xiang wrote down a list of medicinal plants needed to treat the old man. She then took out a few items from her space and asked them to deal with it. Luo Yu immediately took out the storage bag she had snatched from Zhou Yufeng, as well as her own storage bag, and pleaded, "Miss, I only have so many things. I will definitely repay your kindness today with all my might in the future. Please believe me." Chu Xiang laughed. "I believe you. I've seen your good looks. Take them back. You will follow me in the future and help me with my work. Quickly deal with the medicinal plants." "Yes, thank you, Mississippi." Luo Yu's eyes were red. She did not expect to meet a benefactor on this trip. Chu Xiang had a good character, so she was willing to help her. However, Luo Yu felt that it was because Chu Xiang was kind-hearted. Otherwise, how could no one have helped her for so many years? Chu Xiang saw that Luo Yu was handling the medicinal plants skillfully. She asked, "You know about medicine?" Luo Yu nodded. "Grandfather has been ill for many years. We don't have much savings, so we can only learn how to refine some simple pills. Unfortunately, the pill recipes are precious. I don't know how to refine many pills, so I don't have the chance to learn from a master." There were very few alchemists in the South Shore continent. Luo Yu's situation was also because she did not have a good opportunity. Otherwise, if she met someone who appreciated her, they would definitely be willing to accept her as a disciple to treat her grandfather. After all, Luo Yu's talent was very good. She was only one step away from building her foundation. Chu Xiang thought about it. She was actually Luo Yu's best opportunity. Therefore, compared to others, Luo Yu was very fortunate. He Yin quickly rushed over with many medicinal plants and alchemists. Chu Xiang gathered all the medicinal plants and said to the alchemist, "Let's start the fire now. Put whatever I tell you to in. Put as much as you want." The alchemist was stunned. He looked at He Yunfei. "This young city lord, may I know who this miss is?" He Yunfei waved his hand. "She's my friend. She's a medical practitioner. Saving people is more important. Listen to her." The alchemist had never been commanded to refine pills before, so he was at a loss. After taking out the alchemy furnace and lighting it up, he asked Chu Xiang what kind of pill she wanted to refine. However, Chu Xiang only paid attention to the alchemy furnace at the side. Seeing that the fire was ready, she handed a bunch of herbs to the alchemy master. "Release." The alchemist subconsciously put it in. Following that, Chu Xiang handed him many kinds of medicinal plants one after another. Some were more, some were less, some were whole, some were powdered. She even poured a few drops of liquid which he did not know what it was. From time to time, Chu Xiang would ask him to use a strong flame, and then a gentle flame to condense the medicinal liquid in the alchemy furnace. She also asked him to extract the essence of the medicinal plants. After tossing and turning like this for a long time, the pill was finally formed. The alchemist did not know what he had refined, he only knew that it was a low-grade pill. Chu Xiang frowned, obviously very dissatisfied. The alchemist stood up and said, "Miss, why don't you refine it yourself? Or you can give the recipe to me. I promise that I will not spread it. I will definitely refine it better than this." Chu Xiang did not believe that he would be able to refine it better. During the refining process just now, she discovered that this person was not very good at learning. It was not easy for him to refine a middle-grade pill. However, a low-grade pill should be able to treat that old man. She placed the pills into a porcelain bottle and threw it to Luo Yu. "Give your grandfather one pill. From now on, he will take one pill every afternoon. Use your spiritual energy to help your grandfather absorb the medicinal properties of the pill. After these 7 pills, your grandfather will be able to move freely." "Yes, Monsieur." Luo Yu trusted Chu Xiang very much. She immediately gave her grandfather one pill, and used her spiritual energy to help him absorb the medicinal properties. Although Chu Xiang was commanding the alchemist to refine the pill, she was also highly focused. Now that she was done refining, she wiped her sweat and took out a soft chair to sit down. "I'm so tired. Yunfei, is it time to eat dinner?" If he was tired, he could eat it immediately to relieve his fatigue. Yunfei actually understood her meaning and smiled. "My father knows that I'm back. He must have prepared dinner at home. Why don't we go back to the city lord's mansion?" He paused for a moment before continuing. "The chef in the mansion was specially invited by my father. He is good at making medicinal cuisine, and his culinary skills are excellent. He is even better than the chef in the fragrant inn." As expected, Chu Xiang immediately agreed. "Then let's go." "Oh right, send someone to protect Feather. Don't let your cousin find trouble with her." Yunfei looked at the unconscious old man and said, "Why don't we invite Miss Luo and her grandfather to stay in the city lord's mansion temporarily? Miss Lin, it must be very tiring for you to treat my illness. Why don't you stay in the city lord's mansion for the time being? I will instruct the chef to prepare your favorite dishes every day. The servants in the mansion will also take good care of you. It would be good to have someone to serve her." However, Chu Xiang had not met the city lord yet. If he was not easy to get along with, it would be boring. She waved her hand. "We'll see. It's getting dark. Let's go first." They naturally took Chu Xiang's carriage back. She felt that the city lord's carriage was uncomfortable. Therefore, Luo Yu and her grandfather sat in the city lord's carriage. Xiao, Yan and that alchemist who followed them were at a loss. They felt that they did not understand. Chu Xiang could treat Yunfei's illness? Although Chu Xiang had just instructed them to refine the medicine, she did not refine it herself. It looked very unreliable. And Chu Xiang's actions did look like she was saving that old man. However, the alchemist had taken a few glances, and felt that the old man could not be saved. Now that the old man was still unconscious, they could not tell if Chu Xiang could be saved or not. Just now, the alchemist did not know what he had refined. If Chu Xiang refined the medicine like this again, and wanted to give it to Yunfei, wouldn't that be nonsense? On the way back, the 3 of them thought a lot, and even thought of how to report to the city lord. However, when they returned to the residence, they found that it was useless. Because Yunfei trusted Chu Xiang too much, he was afraid that someone would doubt and neglect Chu Xiang. Once they returned to the residence, they arranged a first-class guest room for Chu Xiang, and hurried to the study to see the city lord. They did not know what happened between him and the city lord, but when the city lord saw Chu Xiang, his face was full of smiles and he was very polite. As for Chu Xiang, she secretly looked at the city lord's face. It was not a lie that she knew how to read faces. Otherwise, how could she let Yunfei and Luo Yu follow by her side so easily? Her safety was very important. Now that she saw the city lord, Chu Xiang was relieved. This person was kind and righteous, but not pedantic. He was a classic example of repaying kindness with kindness and revenge with revenge. This made her very satisfied. It seemed that she could do whatever she wanted in Sea City in the future. The city lord of Sea City was called Hefeng. He had a water spiritual root. Unfortunately, his spiritual root was damaged in his early years. After more than 100 years, he had only cultivated to the beginning stage of golden core. He was a fallen talent. If his spiritual root was damaged, he could still cultivate to the golden core stage. It could be imagined that if he was not injured, he would have already gone to the Luo continent. Chu Xiang and Hefeng exchanged a few words. Hefeng found that this girl was not worthy of his attention. During the meal, He Yunfei talked about what happened on the island. He also mentioned that Zhou Yufeng wanted to kill and steal the treasure, and was taught a lesson by Chu Xiang. Hefeng was obviously very annoyed with Zhou Yufeng. He immediately ordered someone to pass a message to the Zhou family, telling them to take good care of their son. If they did not discipline him well, he would throw him into the army camp to be a soldier. After the meal, Hefeng saw that Chu Xiang still had not mentioned the matter of curing his son. Even though he was the city lord and was over 100 years old, he could not remain calm. Miss Lin, my son's body is weak. I heard that Miss Lin has a 70% chance of curing my son. Is that true? When it came to his son, Hefeng was willing to believe in Chu Xiang. Other people only had a 20% chance. Chu Xiang had many high-grade magic tools, and mentioned a powerful hermit family. She might be his son's only chance. Chu Xiang did not put on airs and directly nodded. It's more troublesome. The herbs used are very precious. It depends on whether city lord he can gather them. Hefeng hurriedly said, Miss Lin, please do not hesitate. I will gather them as soon as possible. Chu Xiang took out a brush, ink, paper, and an inkstone. He Yunfei naturally helped her grind the ink. Hefeng looked at him strangely, but it was nothing. Chu Xiang took out the brush and wrote a list. There were more than 100 kinds of herbs. The South Coast continent was not rich in herbs, so there were not many alchemists. However, for his son, Hefeng would naturally think of a way. When he took the list, he thought of a few families. They all had people in their families who went to the Luo continent. Every year, when the Luo continent came to Rao continent, they would bring something for them. There should be some special herbs. He decided to barter with them. Anyway, if the city lord of Sea City wanted to find something, it would be more convenient than Chu Xiang looking for it herself. Chu Xiang left the matter to him, and didn't care anymore. She then urged He Yunfei to ask the Golden Core Armament Master to refine a whip for her. It was a coincidence that the Golden Core alchemist was refining in seclusion. It was said that he wanted to refine a high-grade magic tool for He Yunfei. He had been in seclusion for a month. However, on the third day of Chu Xiang's visit to the city lord's residence, the alchemist's room exploded. Then he walked out with a sullen face. He Yunfei and Chu Xiang were drinking tea and admiring the flowers in the courtyard. When they heard the noise, they hurried over. He Yunfei was used to it and said, Uncle, did you fail again? The alchemist frowned and said, Every step is right. How could this happen? He Yunfei smiled at Chu Xiang. This is my uncle Jinzhen. He didn't go to the Luo continent to take care of me. Don't worry, there won't be a problem when he refines the whip. It's just that when he refines high-grade magic tools, it's easy to explode. Chu Xiang nodded. Then it should be that he didn't put something in. Jinzhen looked over instantly. What did he put in? He put in a piece of tinder grass. Chu Xiang was very good at these things. When she heard that he always exploded in this area, she thought of the key point. Jinzhen frowned even more. Yunfei, who is this? How can you put herbs in refining? It's not refining pills. Chu Xiang said in surprise. Sometimes you put in metal powder in refining pills. Why can't you put herbs in refining? When you refine magic tools, they always explode. It's nothing more than materials with incompatible attributes inside. The tinder grass can make them fuse. Naturally, it won't explode. He Yunfei introduced. Uncle, this is a good friend I met in the Blue Sea region, Miss Lin Mu. She has a lot of experience in alchemy. Maybe she just knows the mystery. Miss Lin knows a lot. Uncle can give it a try. Jinzhen frowned and thought for a while. There was no harm in giving it a try. He had been stuck in this bottleneck for many years. His mind was full of refining. He directly turned and went to another room. This time he didn't go into seclusion. In just one afternoon, he ran out with an excited face. Yunfei, where's that Miss Lin? I've refined it. Sure enough, I only need a piece of tinder grass. Yunfei, I've refined a high-grade magic tool. At that time, Yunfei was blocking in front of Chu Xiang. Looking at his aunt who came to denounce him, he said coldly, Zhou Yufeng is tyrannical and disregards human life. Miss Lin has already been merciful. If he met someone else, I'm afraid his life will be difficult to protect. He sure, who was dressed in wealth, stared at Chu Xiang with a gloomy face. Yunfei, you disobeyed your aunt for this woman? Today I must teach her a lesson. Catch her for me. Jin Jin happened to come to find Rao Yunfei and saw it. He waved his hand and sent those people flying out. Who dares to touch Miss Lin? She's my guest. Chapter 278. Madam, he could still put on the airs of an elder in front of Yunfei, but in front of Jin Jin, a Jindan stage weaponsmith, she didn't dare to be arrogant. However, Jin Jin not giving her any face still made her very angry. Master Jin, you just came out of seclusion so you don't know. This woman's origin is unknown. She injured my son and stole all his things. Now she's still following Yunfei. I don't know what she's up to. You must not be deceived by her. Jin Jun's temper was relatively straightforward, so he didn't talk nonsense. He coldly snorted and said, You don't have to worry about whether I'll be deceived or not. I have something to ask Miss Lin. You should leave quickly. This place doesn't welcome you. The surrounding servants watched. Madam, he felt embarrassed and angrily said, This mansion is my elder brother's mansion. Why can't I come here now? What does Master Jin mean? Could it be that this mansion is going to be surnamed Jin? Jin Jun didn't have the patience to talk to her. He narrowed his eyes and was about to make a move. Chu Xiang stopped him and chuckled. Madame Zhou's words are really interesting. In order to put a label on Master Jin, you actually implied that your elder brother should marry into the family? Madam, he was shocked. What are you talking about? Isn't it? If he doesn't marry into the family, how can this mansion be surnamed Jin? Chu Xiang tilted her head. Let me guess. Your son has returned, so the many cultivators on the island must have also returned. They must have spread the news that I'm going to treat Yunfei's illness, right? You're obstructing me from treating Yunfei's illness. Could it be that you want your son to replace you as the city lord, just like the others said? This time, Madame He's expression changed. She sternly reprimanded. Don't try to sow discord between us siblings. Enough. A cold voice came. Phone came from the corner with some people. Madame He's face turned pale. She hurriedly explained. Brother, don't listen to her nonsense. I never had such an idea. Yunfei is my only nephew. I don't have enough time to dote on him. I'm just angry that this woman injured Feng. Jin Jun coldly snorted. Sophistry. He said to Chu Xiang. I followed the method you taught me and made a high-grade magic weapon. Let's go inside. Brother-in-law will take care of things here. Feng nodded towards Chu Xiang with an apologetic expression. Chu Xiang then followed Jin Jun to the courtyard. Along the way, she saw Jin Jun display the magic tool that he had refined. Her joy was evident on her face. Chu Xiang couldn't help but sigh. Once a person became obsessed with a certain aspect, it was really easy to live a simple life. He only thought about the things he cared about, and did not care about anything else. Jin Jun's life was very relaxed. Feng waited for them to leave before saying to Madame He, I have an important guest in my residence. Don't come over for the time being, lest you offend the important guest. Also, your son needs to be properly disciplined. Since you don't know how to teach him, then send him to the army to learn how to behave. No, brother. Feng waved his hand, and someone immediately carried Madame He out of the city lord's mansion. They did not leave Madame He behind. Instead, they went with her to the Zhou family and escorted Zhou Yufeng to the army. High City's city lord was a man of his word. Even if Madame He cried at home and Father Zhou flew into a rage, it was useless. Zhou Yufeng was taken away just like that. When the servant returned to report that the matter had been settled, Feng apologized to Chu Xiang again. I neglected them and almost caused a disaster. This time, I have to thank Miss Lin for stopping them in time and saving Miss Luo's life. Chu Xiang smiled. City Lord is too polite. I also saw that Miss Luo's character was not bad, so I took care of her. Now that I have this person, I am the one who took advantage. Miss Lin is a benevolent doctor. You saved Miss Luo's grandfather. Miss Luo should be grateful to you. Feng paused, then continued. Does Miss Lin lack people by your side? The servants in the city lord's mansion are all well trained. If Miss Lin has someone you like, just say the word. Chu Xiang shook her head. Only those who are fated can get along, and those who are fated are hard to come by. It is better to have nothing than to have something substandard. When Feng heard this, he did not know why he felt a sense of pride. Those who were fated were hard to come by. The first person that Chu Xiang got close to in High City was He Yinfei. Didn't that mean that He Yinfei was fated to be with Chu Xiang? Actually, when he first heard of Chu Xiang's name, he was full of doubts. He had lived in the South Shore mainland for more than 100 years, and had never heard of any hidden family. Moreover, Chu Xiang's appearance was very sudden, and she got close to He Yinfei as soon as she appeared. It was hard for him not to think too much. Moreover, Chu Xiang boasted that she had a 70% chance of curing He Yinfei. This was too hard to believe. However, He Yinfei repeatedly assured him that Chu Xiang had no ill intentions towards them. He also told him about the little things that happened between him and Chu Xiang. He understood that Chu Xiang was very knowledgeable about cultivation. Indeed, she was very much like a child that had been carefully nurtured by a big family. Moreover, this knowledge and so many magic tools were something that even the first young master of the South Shore, Wei Lingxiao, did not have. This was very consistent with the rules of a hidden family. When he saw Chu Xiang with his own eyes and found that Chu Xiang could even help Jin Jun refine magic tools, he really appreciated Chu Xiang. He also believed that Chu Xiang could cure his son. This matter concerned his son's life and death. Even if he was the leader of a big sect in the Luo continent, he would still be polite to Chu Xiang, not to mention he was only the city lord of High City. Of course, he would not be merciful to those who offended Chu Xiang's sister's family. He would teach them a lesson. They were too ambitious. It was time for them to rein in their arrogance. As such, Chu Xiang was naturally comfortable in the city lord's mansion. While Feng was collecting medicinal materials, she instructed Jin Jun to refine an upper-grade flame whip for her. It was refined from the skin of the 3 third-level snake beasts. She also specially engraved an array on the whip handle. As long as a spiritual stone was placed in the groove in the center of the array, the flame whip could exert the power of the 3 snake beasts combined. It was comparable to the power of a fire cultivator, who had completed the foundation establishment stage. Jin Jun's furnace had exploded when he was refining an upper-grade offensive magic tool. This flame whip was the second upper-grade offensive magic tool he had refined. The refining method was different from the one he had refined before. It was several times more complicated. However, he was obsessed with refining magic tools. He was very skilled in all aspects of refining magic tools. No matter how Chu Xiang instructed him, he could follow. In the end, he refined a whip that satisfied Chu Xiang. He was even more satisfied. He felt that the flame whip was the best magic tool he had ever refined in his life. The power of the 3 snake beasts could be superimposed. He had never heard of this method before. He was very curious about the hermit family behind Chu Xiang. He had asked Chu Xiang many times. He especially wanted to be a hanger-on. As long as she could teach him about refining magic tools, it would be enough. Unfortunately, Chu Xiang did not agree. There was nothing he could do. Because of this, Jin Jun was very depressed. However, he soon discovered that Chu Xiang's knowledge in refining magic tools was very high. He did not need to look for the hermit family. He only needed to ask Chu Xiang to teach him. A gold core stage cultivator trying to please a young girl would not happen. However, it was different when it came to Jin Jun, who was obsessed with refining magic tools. He began to snatch He Yunfei and Luo Yu's work. Whenever Chu Xiang wanted to do something, he would be the first to rush. This made Chu Xiang feel a little surprised and amused. As for Chu Xiang, as usual, She carefully looked at his face. The higher a cultivator's cultivation level, the more youthful they were. Thus, although Jin Jun was He Yunfei's uncle, he looked like his older brother. He looked like he was in his 20s and was very handsome. He noticed Chu Xiang's gaze and touched his face. He suddenly understood. You like good-looking people? Nephews look like their uncles. Don't you think that Yunfei and I look a little alike? Actually, I'm better looking than Yunfei. Yunfei's health is not good. If you have anything to do, don't ask him to do it. Just ask me to do it. He Yunfei's face darkened. Uncle, how come I didn't know that you were so shameless? How are you better looking than me? Luo Yu laughed. Why are you comparing who is better looking? Aren't you looking for fortune tellers? As long as your character is good, looks are definitely secondary. Chu Xiang nodded. That's right. I feel that old Master Luo is also quite good. Of course, being good-looking is also very important. I like good-looking people. Jin Jun and He Yunfei looked at each other's faces. Luo Yu laughed again. Over the past few days, her grandfather had already finished eating the 7 pills. He had really recovered his health and looked like he was in his prime. Therefore Luo Yu was always very happy. She thought about it. Although her grandfather was an old man, he was also a handsome old man. Perhaps Chu Xiang thought that her grandfather was good because of his appearance. The few of them bickered and joked around. Their days were very enjoyable. Those cultivators who returned from the Blue Sea domain spread the news that she was buying things. Every time there would be people coming to the city lord's mansion to sell things to her. She accepted all of them. People were amazed by her wealth, and were even more willing to sell to her. After all, she did not bargain and could buy all of them in one go. There was no need for them to run back and forth. Chu Xiang had the materials. In her free time, she would instruct Jin Jun to refine magic tools. The magic tools refined from her materials would naturally belong to her. However, Jin Jun was instructed by her. Every time he focused on learning, he learned a lot. There were some magic tools that he had always wanted to refine but did not understand. After being instructed by Chu Xiang, he suddenly felt enlightened. He liked to stick to Chu Xiang more and more. He wanted to worship Chu Xiang as his master. Chu Xiang did not accept him. However, he took care of all of Chu Xiang's matters. He was a late-stage gold core realm cultivator. No one in the city lord's mansion could beat him. Luo Yu and He Yunfei, the 2 brats, naturally could not compete with him. They could only look at him angrily. Chu Xiang, on the other hand, thought that it was quite good. He was a gold core realm cultivator. Therefore he had a lot of good things. Chu Xiang would refine magic tools with him when she was free. She managed to get a lot of good things from him. He even thought that he was taking advantage of her. What a fool. Chu Xiang stayed in the city lord's mansion for about 10 days. He finally gathered all of the medicinal plants that Chu Xiang wanted. Because of his great fanfare, the news that someone had treated his son's illness had spread to the ears of many family leaders. There was nothing strange about treating someone's illness. However, as the news spread, there was also the news that the healer was the eldest sister of a hermit family. This made many people puzzled. Was there such a family on the South Shore? If there really was such a family, it must have been passed down for a long time. If they could find them and convince them to come out of seclusion, it would be a good thing for the entire South Shore. Moreover, many families with suitable men in their families were tempted. If Lin Mu's identity was real, marrying such a daughter would be worth more than marrying the daughter of the Wei family. Naturally, they would do something. If Lin Mu's identity was fake, once they found out that she had no backing, they could kill her and steal her treasures. With so many high-grade magic tools, even the Wei family would be jealous. Every time Luo Yu reported these rumors to Chu Xiang, Luo Yu would sometimes get angry. Chu Xiang, on the other hand, did not mind. When it came to having a backer, of course, she had to rely on herself. She was already slowly gathering the strength of the strong by her side. By the time those people reacted, it would be too late. The most important thing now was to cure He Yunfei. Then He Feng, the city lord of Sea City, would not let anyone touch her. Chapter 279. Chu Xiang was treating He Yunfei in the secret room of the He family, because He Yunfei had been assassinated twice recently. He Feng was also vigilant. He let He Yunfei stay in the secret room a few days ago, and he stayed in He Yunfei's room. Therefore, he caught the assassin as soon as he arrived. Haiqing was the second largest city after the imperial city. There were many benefits and military power to be the owner of the city. Many people hoped that He Feng would have no descendants and coveted his position. He Feng took this opportunity to catch the assassin. He let Jin Zhen guard He Yunfei so he was assured. Chu Xiang, Jin Zhen, and Luo Yun were all guarding He Yunfei. He Xiao and He Yan were also personal guards. Chu Xiang prepared a large tub of medicinal bath for He Yunfei to soak in. In fact, it was like soaking in a medicinal spring. Then she instructed the alchemists to refine elixirs, and performed acupuncture on He Yunfei. He Yunfei's face was pale, and his eyes were closed. If he wasn't still breathing, he would look like he was dead. He Xiao and He Yan were a little nervous. Seeing that there was steam rising from He Yunfei's head after a day, they couldn't help but worry. "Miss Lin, is the young master okay?" Chu Xiang glanced at him. "He's fine. Don't worry. I'll be here personally. How can I let anything happen to him?" Jin Zhen was helping Chu Xiang sort the plants. He waved his hand and said, "You two just watch from the side. Don't ask too much. In this whole continent, no one dares to cure Yunfei except for Miss Lin." He Xiao and He Yan looked at each other and bowed their heads and left. "Yes, I was reckless." Chu Xiang turned to ask Jin Zhen curiously, "There are many master alchemists in the Luo continent. You like alchemy so much. Don't you regret staying here?" Jin Zhen shook his head without thinking. "Yunfei is the only descendant of the Jin family. My sister risked her life to give birth to this child. No matter how good the Luo continent is, if Yunfei can't go, I won't go. Yunfei is more important than alchemy." Chu Xiang smiled. "It's rare. There are few cultivators who really care about relationships. Staying here will bury you. When Yunfei gets better and builds his foundation, he can go to the Luo continent. At that time, you can go together." Jin Zhen had never thought about this. After all, it was already very difficult for He Yunfei to survive, let alone Zhuji realm. Now his gaze fell on He Yunfei, and he had some hope in his heart. "It would be best if we could go to the Luo continent together. I have nothing to miss here." He suddenly thought of something and looked at Chu Xiang. "What about you? Are you going? Did your family allow you to leave?" Chu Xiang smiled and said, "I'll go. There are too few good things here. Luo continent must be a lot more fun. Don't worry, my family doesn't care about me. If they knew that I went to the Luo continent, they would be happy. But you have to protect me when the time comes. I don't like fighting. It's tiring." Jin Zhen agreed immediately. Even in the Luo continent, his cultivation of the late stage of the gold core realm was not something that could be easily bullied. Luo Yu was a little sad when she heard their words. She was 20 years old this year, and had been at the great completion of foundation establishment for 2 years. However, no matter how hard she tried, she could not build her foundation. Naturally, she could not go to the Luo continent. Moreover, she still had her grandfather. Her grandfather was only at the 3rd level of the aura refining realm. She could not just leave her grandfather behind. 4 months later, when the Luo continent was choosing its spares, she would be separated from Chu Xiang and the others. These days were the happiest days of her life. She just did not know if she would have a chance to see them again after they separated. A little later, Chu Xiang instructed the alchemist to refine pills. The refining process was ruined. All the herbs in the furnace were ruined. Chu Xiang frowned. The alchemist also felt wronged. "Miss Lin, how can 2 people refine pills together? You and I don't have a tacit understanding. If we don't react in time, how can we refine a good pill? I know that the alchemist's recipe is very precious and cannot be easily shown to others. However, continuing to refine pills like this is not a solution. 2 people without a tacit understanding could not refine pills well." However, Chu Xiang felt that the alchemist was not smart enough. Didn't she and Jin Zhen cooperate well when refining weapons? The first time they cooperated, they refined her top-grade flame whip. Moreover, this alchemist was selfish. If not for the fact that she could not find a better alchemist, she would not have used him at all. Of course, she was not willing to tell him the recipe. Chu Xiang calculated the time. She would need to refine the pills in a few days. She then beckoned to Luo Yu. You come here and refine the pills. Luo Yu walked over in surprise and pointed at her own nose. Me? I only know how to refine simple pills. Being able to refine pills on your own is also a very high talent. You can start from the simplest and I will teach you. Chu Xiang took out a middle-grade alchemy furnace and a few ordinary herbs from her space and let Luo Yu start. The alchemist was a little angry. Miss Lin, what do you mean? You don't trust me? Chu Xiang nodded without hesitation. She did not even look at him. Ask him to leave. We don't need him for the time being. These words were very rude. The alchemist was instantly enraged. He did not need anyone to chase him away. He just snorted and left. He only left behind a sentence. If you can't refine the pills, don't come and beg me. After he left, they were the only ones left in the secret room. Chu Xiang frowned. I suspect that he deliberately destroyed the herbs just now. He is an experienced alchemist. I told him to control the fire so carefully. He shouldn't have made a mistake. Even if we didn't cooperate well, we should have been able to refine a low-grade pill. Jin Jun became serious. Could it be that he was bribed by someone to harm Yunfei? Chu Xiang thought for a while and shook her head. No, it's more likely that he wanted to use this matter to get the pill recipe and profit for himself. No matter what his intentions were, this kind of person who destroyed the pills and did not care about Yunfei's health cannot be used. Who knows what he will do next? There are only so many herbs. If they were all destroyed, it would be troublesome. That's right. We can't use this person. Jin Jun agreed. He was a little upset. Why didn't I learn alchemy? Maybe it's similar to refining weapons. Then we don't need anyone else. We cooperate so well. We can definitely refine a high-grade pill. Chu Xiang laughed. Everything needs talent. You haven't been interested in alchemy for so many years. That means you don't have talent in this area. Just focus on refining your weapons. Don't worry. Even if you don't have talent, Yu does. I'm not just randomly picking people to refine. Luo Yu sat in front of the furnace and asked without much confidence. Can I really do it? Of course. The most important thing is that you listen to me. So you just need to focus and do as I say. Come, let's refine the restorative panacea first. Chu Xiang patted Luo Yu to calm her down. She sat beside her and watched her refine the pills. Luo Yu immediately relaxed. They might not be able to see each other again in a few months. She still hadn't had the chance to repay Chu Xiang for saving her and her granddaughter's lives. Now that Chu Xiang needed her, she had to do her best and do her best. Luo Yu had been refining pills for many years. She didn't know how to refine complex pills without a prescription, but she was very familiar with simple restorative panacea and blood revitalizing pills. Her movements were smooth and fluid. Chu Xiang smiled. Previously, she was trying to save trouble. She thought that if the alchemist could refine the pills, he could do it. But if that alchemist couldn't, Luo Yu could too. Looking at her talent, she might be able to refine even better. Chu Xiang pointed out a few of Luo Yu's bad habits. Luo Yu didn't have a master to guide her in the past, so she had to rely on herself. Naturally, she had some flaws. Now that she had Chu Xiang's guidance, she was able to refine pills more easily. There were many low-grade medicinal plants. Jin Jun even asked Hishio to bring back a pile for Luo Yu to practice on. Luo Yu refined furnace after furnace of restorative panacea. Most of them were low-grade pills. After being corrected by Chu Xiang, there were some mid-grade pills. In the South Shore continent, she was definitely considered a very talented alchemist. Luo Yu was also very happy. If she could become an orthodox alchemist, then her grandfather's life would be more relaxed, and he would be able to enjoy his old age. Luo Yu suggested that she could refine other pills to practice on. After all, she had refined too many restorative panacea. Low-grade restorative panacea wasn't very useful to cultivators. Only her grandfather would be able to use it. However, Chu Xiang didn't mind. She let Luo Yu use the restorative panacea to practice. Low-grade pills weren't very useful to cultivators, but they were useful to her. In the future, when she was tired and chatting, she could eat the restorative panacea like jelly beans. She wouldn't have to specially eat demonic beast meat anymore. How convenient! Thus, under Chu Xiang's guidance, Luo Yu refined restorative panacea without sleep or rest. She refined until she couldn't recognize the restorative panacea anymore. However, 3 days later, she suddenly refined a furnace of high-grade restorative panacea. Other than Chu Xiang, everyone was shocked. Luo Yu's talent was so high. Luo Yu was also shocked. She hurriedly refined another furnace, and was extremely serious. Only then did she refine a middle-grade pill. She carefully recalled that when she refined a high-grade pill, she seemed to have refined it too many times. Her mind was completely blank. Coincidentally, Chu Xiang was instructing her from the side, so she subconsciously followed Chu Xiang's every movement, including the control of the fire and the time to put in the herbs. Then she refined a furnace of high-grade pills. Luo Yu looked at Chu Xiang expectantly and said, "Miss, can you watch me refine another furnace? I feel like that furnace just now was refined by you using my hands. I can't do it by myself." Chu Xiang nodded. "Then we already have a tacit understanding. Let's try it." Chu Xiang directed from the side. Luo Yu concentrated on refining the pills. The others also gathered around and watched quietly. After a while, Luo Yu lifted the furnace. She actually refined a high-grade restorative panacea. Luo Yu couldn't help but be overjoyed. "Miss, I should be able to refine the pills that the young city lord needs. As long as I don't think about anything and completely listen to you like a puppet, this furnace of pills will be just like the ones you refined." Chu Xiang smiled and stroked her hair. "So obedient." Luo Yu smiled embarrassedly, but she was especially happy. It seemed like she could really help Chu Xiang. Jin Jun and the others watched this scene. Why did they feel a little strange? Chu Xiang was 2 years older than Luo Yu? What was so obedient? However, this was really good news. Previously, Grandfather Luo was afraid that his granddaughter wouldn't be able to help, and would cause trouble. Now that he saw the two of them having such a tacit understanding, he breathed a sigh of relief, and revealed some happiness. He Xiao and He Yan also relaxed. Jin Jin didn't have any doubts from the beginning. After all, Chu Xiang had never failed since she appeared. Since she asked Luo Yu to refine pills, she naturally had her reasons. Now it seemed that this reason was that Luo Yu trusted her enough without any selfish motives or distracting thoughts. This was also the reason why Chu Xiang felt that Luo Yu was so obedient. Jin Jun suddenly thought that he and Chu Xiang had succeeded in refining tools every time, and the pills they refined were all high-grade magic tools. Then, wouldn't he be the same as Luo Yu to Chu Xiang, really obedient? Jin Jun coughed twice unnaturally. In any case, the matter of refining pills had been solved. Just like Luo Yu. As long as Luo Yu treated herself as a puppet, the pills would be equivalent to Chu Xiang refining them. This also made it clear how high Chu Xiang's alchemy skills were. She actually refined a high-grade pill in one go. This girl really hid her skills well. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.